accident here. Welcome back. Tom Hartman here with you, and Lawrence in Berkeley, California.
Hi.
Hey, Lawrence, what's on your mind?
Yeah, how you doing? I just say that I live in California, so I'm going to vote for Jill Stein of the Green Party.
Okay.
And if you live in any state like in California where the decision is already made, Obama's ahead here at least 20 points, they say you waste your vote if you vote for the Green Party, but I see it as the opposite. That's the only way I can make my vote count.
Well, and the flip side of that is be careful how you vote on the down-ticket races.
Mm-hmm. That's right. If you're in California or, for that matter, in New York or Texas or Oklahoma, any of the states where it's totally decided, you can vote Green, and that's the only way.
Now, here's the one place, Lawrence, where and as you know, I'm friendly with that argument. As I said, I voted for Ralph Nader in 2000 because I wanted the Green Party to have some mojo, and I knew Vermont was going to go Democratic. But on the other hand, in that election, that 2000 election, Al Gore got 500,000 more votes than George W. Bush did, and which is a fact that most Americans are unaware of. 500,000 more popular votes. And I think that, frankly, if the Republicans, succeed in their voter suppression efforts, particularly in the critical swing states, and they somehow manage to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and like George W. Bush did. I mean, they knocked 80,000 people, African Americans largely, off the voting rolls down in Florida before the election, so the game was rigged. Still, Bush lost. I mean, when they did the recount a year later, although they buried the story because they didn't want to discredit him after 9/11. But nonetheless, it got him close enough that he could steal that election. But lacking that, I think that if there is a large enough popular vote that it may cause us to revisit. I was debating this morning, actually, over on China TV. It may cause us to revisit our ideas of the Electoral College because that's not a good system. Thank you, Lawrence, for the call. Pap, what would you do if you were in?
Well, I think numbers matter. I mean, I think numbers matter for policy, for the way we set policy, for the way that we perceive, for the way we perceive events.
Yeah.
Votes matter, and if this man feels compelled to vote Green, I don't know that that'll ever be as significant as having an impact on policy.
It may. I mean, the Green Party, if they get a loud enough voice, they may start pushing the Democratic Party.
We hope so. We hope so. This round, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, this round, there's so much at stake. I'm the Supreme Court. You got 3 justices who are over 70, 75.
Yeah. I'd love to. There are things that I just say, good God, I can't stand that. I've got to vote something that I feel really good about. Sometimes you can't do that. This is maybe one of those.
Well, I actually feel pretty good about Obama.
Okay, well, I'm
Edmund in Hilo, Hawaii. Hey, Edmund, what's up?
Hello, Tom and Mike. I got a question. You know the congressman that blocks everything from Obama, and do they have to take an oath to office to be congressman?
You're talking about like Tom Tancredo, Dr. No, who kept putting holds on bills in the Senate.
Yeah.
Or you're talking about these 14 guys who met at the Caucus Room Steakhouse the night that Obama was sworn into office. Eric Cantor, Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy, these guys, and swore, a blood oath to sabotage him.
Yeah, those guys. Did they have to take an oath to office?
Yeah, they do take an oath of office.
And I guess they didn't uphold it, huh?
No, in my opinion, they didn't uphold it. I think, and in fact, I think signing an oath to K Street multimillionaire lobbyists like Grover Norquist is a violation of your oath of office.
Yeah, Pep? I think a lot of people agree with it as a violation of the oath. But it's interesting to talk about. But as far as anybody doing anything about it, it doesn't have much meaning. It is obviously I think it's clearly a breach of their oath.
Yeah, amen. Jeff in Santa Margarita, California. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hi, Mr. Hartman and Mr. Papantonio. I want you guys to expand on these concepts a little bit, but, Ayn Rand's philosophy talks about makers and takers,
right,
when the majority of humanity are actually sharers and givers. For 90% of the history of our species, we lived in communal hunter-gatherer groups.
Yes.
Where giving and sharing was a matter of survival. So I can't see how this right-wing ideology can't fail under the weight of just the nature of the way human beings are. Could you guys expand on that, please?
You're absolutely right, Jeff. And in fact, Shano says that you're the winner of our book, or the recipient of a copy of Unequal Protection, How Corporations Became People and How You Can Fight Back. So I'm going to put you on hold, and Danielle will get your mailing information. But I absolutely agree with him. The question in my mind is, how does it go down? You know, does it all collapse? Are we the end of the Roman Empire, or does it reboot? Is this 1932 in America?
Howard, well, your theory is we reboot. I think
that's my hope.
Howard Zinn, Chalmers Johnson, Studs Terkel, some of these great writers. I mean,
right.
They say no, things do get to a critical mass where the structure of empire crumbles to the point where it's not really salvageable. And
well, that happened to Great Britain after World War One.
Of course. Well, it took.
They're still here.
They're still here, but it took 75 to 100 years to reboot, I guess, as you put it.
Yeah.
So it's an ugly process. And when you do get to that point of what Howard Zinn, hell, he called it critical mass before he died, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we are there. I mean, I don't think there's any question. That's not conspiracy tinfoil crazy talk.
Well, I think we're there because the fundamentals have not been addressed. The core fundamentals. This is the stuff in my book, Rebooting the American Dream. It's got 11 steps. I used Hamilton's 11-point plan in 1793 for manufacturers as the model for it. And, we have not changed our trade policy to a rational trade policy. We don't have rational labor policies in the United States. We don't have rational taxation policies in the United States. Our environmental policies, are falling apart. I mean, basically, our social contract has become frayed. And if we don't change those fundamentals, we're in big trouble. And frankly, I don't see it happening soon. I think it's going to take a 32 type of crash to happen. And frankly, I think coming out of that will be something good. I'm the optimist in this thing, so hopefully Howard Zinn's wrong. Hey, I'm Mike Papantonio, ringofireradio.com. Thank you, Pap.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks so much for being with us. Coming up tomorrow on Tom Hartman program, get your questions ready. It's Friday, and that means a full hour of Brunch with Bernie. America's Senator Bernie Sanders will be taking your calls. And don't forget, democracy begins when you show up. Get out there, get active, occupy something. Tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Tom Hartman. For audio and video archives, go to TomHartman.com.
When I heard Wells Fargo was giving their customers a free credit score, I figured I'd stop in.
It's part of our limited time promotion. We'll give you a personal access code so you can obtain a free credit score and complimentary credit report. We can also talk about your credit score and how it impacts you.
Good to know.
Stop into Wells Fargo from now until November 15, 2012, and ask a banker about how to get your personal access code to obtain a free credit score and complimentary credit report. Wells Fargo. Together we'll go far. Wells Fargo Bank N.A. See a banker for specific promotion details.
Here at Hotels.com, we only do hotels. If you want a romantic suite, a view of the sea, or even a room made of ice, ask us. We'll find it.
Well, can you do anything else? Like yodel? That was different.
Like I said, we know what we're doing when it comes to hotels. In fact, we have over 150,000 hotels worldwide.
Hotels.com. Finding you the perfect place is all we do.
Dollar Loan Center is your community short-term lender. Get up to $2,500 online or at one of our 75 locations in California, Nevada, Utah, or South Dakota. For nearly 14 years, Don'tBeBroke.com has been helping people in Nevada, Utah, and South Dakota bridge the gap between paydays with quick and confidential loans. It is our pleasure to announce that we are now assisting customers in California with our fast and easy online short-term signature loans from Don'tBeBroke.com. If you would like up to $2,500 in less than an hour, just stop by or apply online at Don'tBeBroke.com. We have 75 locations, or we can process your loan online. We guarantee to beat the rate of any of those payday loan companies and give you more time to pay back. All of the details are at Don'tBeBroke.com. You don't even need a checking account. Log on to Don'tBeBroke.com now to check out our signature online lending options. Now with 25 locations in the LA area.
Sirius XM Left.
Those politicians and previous politicians didn't budget properly over the years for those costs.
Think. Sirius XM Left. 127.
AP Radio News. Good afternoon, I'm Brad Thomas. Joe Biden says what the president calls Romnesia is spreading. And he also says Republican vice presidential nominee Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney have clearly taken a position on women's health that is far different from that of the Democratic team.
It was made very clear that they don't believe a woman has a right to control her own body. Romney and Ryan have made it very clear that they're willing to impose their private views on the public.
But in Moon Township, Pennsylvania, Ryan says it's the Republican team that has the answer for economic growth in America, a plan that will foster growth in the energy field.
Point one of our 5-point plan is really simple. We have so much energy in this country. Let's use that energy in this country and put people back to work. Let's create jobs.
President Obama and Mitt Romney are closeted for debate preparation, Obama at Camp David, Romney at a hotel in Boca Raton, Florida, near the Monday debate site. A Silver State Trailways tour bus crashed in Arizona while returning to Las Vegas from the Grand Canyon. Bart Graves of the Arizona Department of Public Safety cannot confirm the driver, who died, had a heart attack.
We can't say that until the medical examiner does the autopsy. So we're prevented from commenting directly on that, but it was a catastrophic medical event that forced him to lose control.
Everyone on the bus was hurt, 6 of them seriously. Lebanon's president is blaming Syria for the Friday bomb blast in Beirut that killed 8 people, including the intelligence chief who had exposed a plot by Syria to encourage chaos in his country. AP Radio's Bassem Rouet.
Al-Hassan Pro arrest of former Information Minister Michel Samaha, one of President Bashar Assad's most loyal allies in Lebanon. Samaha, who is currently in custody, is accused of plotting a wave of attacks to spread sectarian violence in Lebanon at Syria's behest.
This is AP Radio News. In the National League Championship Series, a travel day as the series shifts to San Francisco for Sunday.
Needing 3 straight wins at Cincinnati to avoid elimination in the division series, San Francisco won all its games on the road, and now they're heading home, down 3-2 to St. Louis with Game 6 set for Sunday. The Cardinals are seeking consecutive pennants for the first time since the 1967-68 season. They are also trying to advance for the second year in a row as a wild card. One more win would set up a rematch of the 2006 World Series against the Tigers, which the Cardinals took in 5 games. I'm Shelley Antler.
The NHL's next cuts will be the deepest, one day after the National Hockey League turned down 3 counter-proposals from players, wiping out 53 more games. A total of 135 games through November 1st have been scratched. That's 11% of the season. There's no indication of any progress in the talks between the players and the NHL. Brian Thomas, AP Radio News.
And this is Mike Fader on Sirius XM Left 127. We have several guests tonight, all of whom I assume will be interesting, and various topics we're going to cover, and including, of course, if you want to talk about it, the debate between the 2 corporate stooges. We'll have that on. And let's see, what else? We've got a couple of workers calling up who are calling up from a plant in Freeport, Illinois, that Bain Capital just recently closed down and moved to China, and they'll be on talking about their lost jobs and what there is possibly to do about it. And a couple of workers, if you've been reading the papers lately, you may have noticed that in various Walmart stores across the country, Walmart being the world's largest employer, there have been workers striking, well, not really striking, but walking out because they don't have a union yet, walking out, demanding better work conditions. It's a gigantic scandal in the making for Walmart. One hopes, and they do the right thing. So we'll have some workers on. These are all be at 7 o'clock. 6 o'clock, my friend Les Leopold will be here, and we're going to talk about common sense explanations about what all these numbers are that everybody throws around. I see you 6 million jobs, and I raise you 12 million jobs, and the GDP and everything else. So he'll explain it all and what everybody's saying. And then, of course, we'll talk about the election in general. Right now, I wanted to talk about, one other thing before we go to our guest who's on the line. I'd like to invite everybody to go to my Facebook page, where there's a lot of political discussion going on about all these issues, and you can post things there, and we have a lot of debates going on about politics. And it's called Occupied Territory. It's about the United States, not about the Middle East. Just Google Facebook and Occupied Territory, Facebook and Occupied Territory, and we will entertain any kind of debate that goes on there. We have a running debate about third parties going on there right now. Okay, many of you may not have noticed this, but there was a meeting that the United States participated in a couple of weeks ago in a place called Leesburg, Virginia, and it's the 6th meeting in a series of meetings to formulate and to finally sign a trade deal called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And most people don't know what that is. Suffice it to say that NAFTA was only sort of a tryout, like a little baby brother, to what this Trans-Pacific Partnership is and what it could do, and to try to explain what it is. And the other thing about it is that the thing was basically held in secret, that the media even was kept out of it. It's a secret meeting. The question is why and what's it all about. So to define what that is, to find out what it is and what's going on, we've asked a couple of people on tonight. Do we have our other guest on there too? Okay, so we have at least one person here. We're going to have 2 people, but we have Arthur Stimoulis with us. Hiya.
Hi.
Hi. Let's see if we get your phone up right. Okay. Now, Arthur is the executive director of Citizens Trade Campaign, a national coalition of labor, environmental, family, farm, and consumer organizations working together to stop the expansion of NAFTA-style trade agreements. Your organization, Citizens Trade Campaign, who funds that? How is it funded?
We're funded by our member organizations, so unions, environmental groups, consumer organizations.
Okay, and and obviously you watch the debates, I'm sure, along with a lot of other people, obviously. But so there's all this talk about the middle class workers' jobs, but environmental protection. Well, they didn't talk enough about that, but middle class workers' jobs, NAFTA, and but so what was happening in Leesburg, Virginia? What is the Trans-Pacific Partnership? How did it originate, and where are we with it?
Yeah, so the Trans-Pacific Partnership would be the largest free trade agreement in U.S. history. Were it to pass, right now it's being negotiated between the United States and 10 other countries throughout the Pacific Rim. Just among those, this would be far, far bigger than NAFTA, the North America Free Trade Agreement, or any other individual free trade agreement the United States participates in. But it's also specifically being negotiated as what's called a docking agreement, meaning that other countries could dock on or join over time. And the U.S. Trade Representative, who's the cabinet level official negotiating this thing, has said, he'd like nothing better than for China to join and for this to, he could envision it eventually covering half the countries of the world. So this is a big, big deal. And what it says at its core is 2 things. Number one, making it even easier for big companies to shift jobs around the world to wherever workers are the most exploited and environmental regulations are the weakest. They not only think that American workers are overpaid, but increasingly they think that Chinese workers are overpaid, and they're looking for supply chain alternatives to China. And then the other thing it does is it handcuffs government's ability to regulate in the public interest. The TPP has 29 separate chapters covering financial regulations, environmental regulations, food safety standards, government procurement, you name it. And all the different sort of corporate sectors have their dog in the fight of what they want.
So on this one issue, structurally, if everybody signed this, it's sort of a major step towards having a kind of international corporate government, which trumps all sovereign governments, right?
No, that's right. So there's 29 chapters. 4 have been leaked. One of the chapters that was leaked was the investment chapter, and what that shows is an expansion of what's called investor-to-state dispute resolution, so that individual, so under the World Trade Organization, other governments can challenge each other's laws, their regulations, even their court decisions. Mm-hmm. What the TPP does is allow individual corporations, transnational corporations, not small mom-and-pop businesses, not citizens, but transnational corporations to challenge any law, any regulation, any court decision that negatively affects their expectations of profits. And those challenges don't happen through the U.S. court system or any country's domestic judicial system. They're heard in private tribunals made up of a panel of 3 corporate trade attorneys, people who oftentimes work for Fortune 500 companies as their other job.
Let me see if I can get this straight, because sometimes I understand. I hear people tell me things, and I find it unbelievable. So what you're actually saying is that, let's say, take the XL pipeline, for instance, right? Or something like that, or takes environmental controls over things that go on in California or New York or Virginia, the federal government could pass a law forbidding such and such a thing to happen, like no drilling or whatever. But if one of these international corporations, let's say it's BP or some other international corporation, decides that it is more in their interest, according to this agreement, that there be no environmental protections, that would decide the matter. In other words, whatever the federal government wanted, whatever we, the people of the United States, through Congress wanted, would not count for anything?
That's exactly right.
How could that be, though? I mean, basically, the president would be signing away things that is his constitutional duty, for instance, to protect, the welfare, look after the welfare of the people of the United States. He'd be actually committing kind of treason, wouldn't he, if he did that?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the definition of treason, but it's certainly not in the interests of people of the planet. And under the World Trade Organization, we've already lost about 90% of more than 65 cases that have been brought against the United States. So we've seen parts of the Clean Air Act, the Endangered Species Act, the Marine Mammal Protection Act rolled back. Most recently, we've seen country of origin labels for meat eliminated. Certain tobacco control programs we have to protect kids from flavored cigarettes eliminated. And this would massively expand that by allowing not only foreign governments, who have all sorts of diplomatic concerns and have to make a decision, is this really a big enough deal to challenge the United States over, but allow, put that power into the hands of individual corporations. And we do have some treaties, trade pacts and investment treaties that have similar provisions, but they've frankly mostly been with small developing countries, so that these attacks on democracy have gone attacking the global South. And, this would expand that so that more and more poor countries would face that scenario. But, if it expands throughout the entire Pacific Rim, as it's envisioned, the chickens could come home to roost with Japanese firms or Chinese firms.
Well, if Congress, passed a bill upping the minimum wage from whatever it is now, let's say to $10 an hour, right? Which you can barely live on anyhow. If they passed that law and the President of the United States passed that bill, and the President of the United States signed it into law, then if we're members of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, global corporations could get together and decide that harms them too much. And then what? Would they abrogate our law? We don't have that law anymore?
So basically what happens if there's a challenge, and most of them thus far have been to environmental, consumer safety laws, but also all sorts of tax policy, internet gambling laws, you name it. They bring it to this tribunal. Most often it's the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes, which is a panel of 3 trade attorneys who are seated in the World Bank. They hear the case. The federal government defends the law, defends the regulation, defends the court's decision. If it's a state law, the state has no standing. It's whoever's in the White House gets to defend it. Oftentimes that's a conflict of interest in and of itself.
Sure.
And then, assuming the corporation wins, as they do most of the time, then the government, who, is the offending government, has to either pay a penalty and or change their laws. And if they opt not to, then then trade sanctions are put in place, all sorts of tariffs and potentially other sanctions as well. And that's how they do it, and that's how they get away with it. And
well, theoretically speaking,
proposing.
Well, then Congress, obviously, as representatives of the people of the United States, we can maybe forget about the president, who seems to be off in his own world, but Congress, as representatives of the people, they have to ratify treaties, right?
Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, this doesn't count as a treaty constitutionally, so it'll be a simple majority vote. But Congress would have to sign it and approve it before it moves forward.
Well, what if they didn't approve it? Then what happens?
Well, that would be great. That would be wonderful. The pact would be dead in the water.
Well, but what if they did approve it? Now, the other thing that people have been writing about, maybe you could illuminate, what's going on here. Congress is not present at these meetings?
No. So right now, there have been 14 major rounds of negotiations going back 3 years in earnest, and even longer before then in terms of sort of vague discussion. The U.S. Trade Representative has refused to tell the American public what they're proposing in our names. They flat out said, no, we're not going to do that until the deal is done, it's signed. There's no opportunity to make any substantive changes. Meanwhile, they've granted approximately 600 corporate lobbyists special cleared advisor status so that they have access to the text and can pull it up on a secure website whenever they want. Companies like Walmart and Cargill and Chevron have representatives who have access to the text, but the people who are going to be most affected by the deal, no access whatsoever. And members of Congress, until very recently, even Senator Wyden, who chairs the Trade Subcommittee and frankly has been very supportive of most free trade agreements in the past, even he was being blocked from seeing it. He had to introduce legislation. The USTR eventually, begrudgingly, has been allowing him access to the text, but he has to go into a secure room. He can't bring in his cell phone, notepad, paper, a pen. He's not allowed to share what he learns with his staff, the people who would, be best qualified to review it and advise him on it. But, these corporate lobbyists can pull it up from their home or office whenever they choose.
Well, it's difficult to even know how to have a conversation about something so astounding, but here it is. I mean, why doesn't somebody like Senator Wyden or other members of Congress make a gigantic issue of this?
I think a lot. So on the one hand, Senator Wyden is doing things. He's introduced legislation. He's talked about it on the floor of Congress. He's talked about it, in the press and criticized the process. Frankly, the majority in Congress, there are some good members in there, but the majority, have supported this model. They get there. You could talk about their justification, their motives for this. Is it because they're bought by the corporations, or is it because, they always thought that way, and that's who the corporations decide to support? Either way, most of them are, a lot of them are millionaires themselves in their own right, and,
right.
They support it. That's the problem. That's the issue.
And I haven't heard this Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, I haven't heard this mentioned anywhere in any kind of newspaper or any media whatsoever.
No, it's been virtually complete radio silence besides, the progressive independent radio and media. Clearly the U.S. Trade Representative is not making it easy for the media to cover this, but so much of the corporate media, I think, is just inclined to anyways. They'll write a one-wire story or something like that, but they haven't. Under this type of trade pact. Beyond that, it's hard to say. But again, this has got 29 separate chapters. A lot of the chapters, like the intellectual property chapter, which includes things like copyright, have quite a bit to do with the internet. Internet freedom proponents have, sort of two basic problems with that chapter, which has also been leaked. One is, this sort of concept of secondary liability. Is YouTube responsible if, I post some copyrighted material, my daughter dancing to some Lady Gaga song,
right.
Who has to pay for that? And then the other is this question of temporary copies and, what sort of innovation does that block because so many internet searches rely on, temporarily copying things onto databases so that they can be searched and whatnot.
Well, certainly any kind of taxation on corporations would be frowned upon by the TPP, right?
Yeah, it would be very, very interesting what sort of new taxation, what sort of new fee structures could be challenged, and this would give corporations all sorts of ability to challenge new policies.
As if they don't have enough already. But I read, I went to the U.S., what is it, the website, U.S. Trade Organization?
The U.S. Trade Representative. Yeah,
so I went to the website, and you didn't have to look too hard to see that, for instance, the Sierra Club and the ACLU are listed as participants. Why? So how did they get in there?
Well, the question of participants is sort of a tricky one.
Yeah.
So at each of the rounds, what the U.S. Trade Representative has done is allowed what's called stakeholders to come in and to set up a table where they could share information with whatever negotiator decides they want to go in and
is that
look
it?
at it, or also give presentations to whatever negotiators decide they want to go in and sit through them. So, I've done that. Sierra Club's done that. ACLU, all sorts of groups have done that. Labor unions, others. That doesn't mean we get access to the text and be able to comment on what's specifically being proposed.
Why?
There are.
Why wouldn't the Sierra Club and the ACLU be really up in arms about this?
Well, I mean, the Sierra Club is up in arms about it. The ACLU has called this the greatest threat to free speech you've never heard of. People are upset. I think, I think people, as the information starts to trickle out, even within organizations, people are getting angrier and angrier. And frankly, starting to realize, hey, this is real. The 14 rounds have been completed. This thing, maybe has 6 more months or so of negotiation.
But then when they sign,
by then it's done.
Well, but when they all sign it, it has to be approved by individual parliaments and congresses, right?
That's right. So the USTR will sign it on behalf of the president. And then it goes back to Congress. And the U.S. Trade Representative has already said that the only way that it can get this through Congress is under a process called fast track, where basically Congress changes the rules of the game. They restrict the ordinary committee review, amendment, and debate procedure and allow themselves only a thumbs up or thumbs down vote. There's no chance of filibuster. It's a simple majority. Even the most obvious problems can't be fixed. It's a take it or leave it scenario, and so often they take it. that's a major problem, obviously.
Well, let me ask you a couple of. You just tuned in. You're listening to Arthur Stamoulis, and he is the executive director of Citizens Trade Campaign. Can you give people a website to find? Because I don't think anybody I know knows about this. It's the first time I've heard about it. It was the last few weeks.
Yeah, our website is citizenstrade.org, citizenstrade.org, plural, and you can get basic information. You can also find the leaked text, which were first published on our website.
And but if you wanted to, you could go there with a little bridge table, and you can hand out pamphlets, right, and cookies.
Yeah, no, it's some of the rounds they've allowed that. The next round is in Auckland, New Zealand, and I've heard that they're doing away with the tabling. They're still going to allow some groups to do 10-minute presentations or however long they give them.
So it's
the tabling is too much.
The website, that was too much for them, right? I mean, even being able to hand out a pamphlet to somebody who ignores it, that's too much. So give the website again.
Citizenstrade.org.
Okay, and this is TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Here's another question for you. We've got the debates, right? You watch the debates?
I've watched part of them.
Okay, I could understand that.
I can only take so much.
I can understand that. There were ball games on. I understand that. So I watch it. I have to watch it sort of like homework, you know what I mean? Because I do a political talk show. And I'm watching it, maybe, I don't know, some leftover atavistic, instinct I have that there might be a democracy somewhere hiding in this gigantic pile of refuse. But I'm watching this debate, and they're asking for us. One of them stands for the workers. The other one stands for jobs. They both stand for jobs. They're for the consumers. They love everybody. They're working for everybody's interests. Meanwhile, do you see a difference between these two candidates in terms of specifically trade and trade policy?
Honestly, their positions are very, very similar. President Obama during the last election promised very big things and very specific things on how he was going to change U.S. trade policy. He hasn't done that. Picked up where the Bush administration left off. He dusted off the Korea, the Panama, and Colombia free trade agreements, which George Bush couldn't get through Congress. He did make some minor tweaks to them. And then he passed them, agreements that he had opposed, and now he's proposing the largest free trade agreement since NAFTA. I think where he's been, perhaps slightly better than some is on, the issue of enforcement, and doing some steps to protect jobs, particularly in terms of trade with China. But he certainly hasn't been anywhere near.
But all that would get
trade.
All that would get swept away if this agreement is signed, right?
So the existing pacts with countries that aren't a part of it would stay. The question of what would happen with previous pacts, so say NAFTA, because Canada and Mexico are a part of this, still remains to be seen. They haven't released the text of what exactly their proposal is, but presumably this would trump that. Yes.
Well, it's a staggering thing to think of, and when they say they're going to put it on a fast track, I have no doubt they will. And you say it just takes a simple majority to approve it, thumbs up, thumbs down. No hearing, no extensive, obviously public hearings on this, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, they'll certainly hold, one or two hearings. Who the experts they call on to testify. I'm sure they'll have one labor person opposing it and a bunch of corporations supporting it, but they won't dig into it in any real way. If it gets that far. And, I think the hopeful thing, to mention is, this isn't just the United States. This is a big pact. And in other countries, people are fighting this very hard.
Really? Like where? Who's fighting it in what country?
Well, so in Australia, for instance, people are really upset with this idea of the investor state provisions that we talked about. The Australian government does not want to give up, basically their sovereignty, and they're saying no, and reportedly, not even really participating in that part of the negotiations. And Australians are, fighting hard to make sure the government holds that line. In Japan, which isn't even technically part of the negotiations yet, but has made a lot of overtures about joining, almost 12 million people have already signed a petition opposing it. There have been, large demonstrations in the street. I'm told that there are, on the bestseller list of books about the TPP. 12 and amazing to me, yeah.
12 million people. That's like approximately a fifth of the population. Something like that.
Honestly, I'm not sure, but it is a big chunk. It's a big chunk.
Well, that would be like 30 or 40 million people here. I mean,
it would be. It would be, a significant piece of the population.
Well, see, here we are again. I mean, why does this country always? Why are we the last ones to know what's really going on? I mean, why do we stay so ignorant? It's a rhetorical question, obviously. But go ahead and answer.
Clearly our media system has failed us dramatically.
Wow.
People who listen to shows like yours, I think actually are, generally speaking, very well informed.
Yeah.
People who participate in society as, we're called Citizens Trade Campaign, and, we don't mean that in sort of the exclusionary version of the word citizen, but in terms of people have a responsibility to participate, in society and create the society they want to live in. And I think, our media system, our education system, have failed people in that regard and not really trained people to do that. And the people at the top, that's by design.
One last question. We have to go to a break. And once again, you're listening to Arthur Stamoulis, and you might as well give the website one more time. People should know where to go to find out about this while they're going to be losing their laws and their jobs. They might as well know what's happening to them. So where do they go?
Yeah, citizenstrade.org.
Okay. So here's an election coming up, right? And I suppose I don't want to be too formulaic about this, but I'm interested to hear. I'm going to have a lot of guests on tonight and a lot of guests in the next couple of weeks on about the election. Who are you voting for in this election, if you feel like saying?
Speaking as an individual and not on behalf of our nonprofit, because we're not allowed to endorse or anything.
No, I understand that.
I would say, there's frankly too much focus on elections. I mean, I think who's elected matters, and I think there's one candidate, who's slightly better than the other. And if I were in a swing state, I would say vote for that one who's slightly better than the other, and
interesting.
The back to work doing the real work, holding people accountable.
Yeah, it's generally sort of where I stand on things. I mean, basically, I've had Jill Stein on here several times, and she's going to be back next week. And I'm personally going to vote for her, and I don't see enough difference between the two. And I've been voting for a long time, and I don't want to vote anymore for the lesser of two evils. However, I do not live in a swing state. And I noticed recently that Noam Chomsky and Daniel Ellsberg, who's one of my heroes, have come out with ardent, passionate requests to people if you live in a swing state, even though, these people... Ellsberg, for instance, said, I think this man should be impeached, speaking of Obama. But nevertheless, right? So it's interesting to hear somebody with a similar sort of point of view, because that's sort of where I've landed on this.
I think there's wisdom in that. There absolutely is. And, I think people need to remember, on either side of that debate, voting isn't going to be what changes. It's going to be what changes things.
Oh, really? What is going to be what changes things? That's interesting.
Well, I mean, I think we need movements in this country and people coming together, across specific issues, and really fighting and really holding people accountable, and coming out in the streets, and I mean, the Occupy movement, I think, hopefully was a prefigurative glimmer of what's to come in years to come. But that's, I believe, what we're going to need in this country.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just amazing though when you tell me that 12 million people in Japan have signed a petition opposing it, so certainly probably asking for it to be revealed so they know what's going on. And in this country, you couldn't find 12 people maybe who have heard of it. And now a lot more have, but still, it's just astounding to me. Well, anyhow, it's good that you're out there doing that, and I hope people go and check this website out. And we're going to vote for somebody. One or the other of them is going to be clearly pushing this and trying to ram it through Congress. But maybe other candidates or the next time around. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much. This is Mike Fader, Sirius XM Left 127. If you want to get in touch with me, first you have to have a note from your mother, which we have to see. You'll have to put it on PDF and send it to me. And then when you get that permission, you can go to my website and you can get in touch with me. Because you go to faderfiles.com, it'll say contact Mike. That would be me. FEDERFILES.com. And now we go straight to a break, and we're going to talk a little bit about what Arthur and I were just talking about, which is the idea of choosing your poison when it comes to the election and how to go about voting. I mean, I've been completely aggressive and ardent and one-sided on the idea of never voting for Obama, dissuading people from voting for Obama, voting for Jill Stein. I have to say, and I will explain it when we come back from the break, I have kind of altered my position just a little bit, and I'd be very interested to hear from other people about what they think. The election is almost upon us, sort of like a mangy wolf about to bite us, and we have to deal with it.
Join SiriusXM, athletes, celebrities, and millions of Americans as we stand against bullying and show support for they are. For more information, visit glad.org/Spirit Day. That's GLAAD.org/Spirit Day.
Rachel Maddow, host of The Rachel Maddow Show, weeknights at 9 Eastern on MSNBC.
We're going to have to start thinking big, in particular about energy. I mean, it's not just the BP spill and fossil fuels running out and what happened in Japan. The whole economy hinges on energy. And we've got to start thinking about energy in a way that is as ambitious as anything else we've ever done as a country.
Lean forward. MSNBC.
It's Low-Tober at Dave Smith. Buick, Cadillac, or top quality pre-owned vehicle, then go to DaveSmith.com and check out our huge selection. Dave Smith offers a hassle-free deal. We are the world's largest for a reason. Go to DaveSmith.com and see why.
At Advance Auto Parts, we don't do anything just part way. We go full throttle. We don't just sell you some rags in a bucket. Oh, no. Right now, we've got deals that will make your car shine. Buy 2, get 1 free on Armor All wipes. 2 for $10 on select Meguiar's products. And dozens more deals throughout the store. Yeah, that's dozens. With an S. And a Z, too, in case you're writing this down. Right now, at Advance Auto Parts. Service is our best part. Advance Auto Parts. See store for details.
We've all heard of AARP, but what you may not have heard of is a new program they've launched. It's called Create the Good, and it's designed to make our nation a better place. It's not just people who've retired looking for new ways to share their wealth of ideas. It's people of all ages. Whether you have 5 minutes or 5 hours to volunteer, you can make a difference. Just visit createthegood.org to find an opportunity that fits your time and interests. Together, we can make new connections and find new tools and ideas to spread the good. Brought to you by your friends at SiriusXM.
SiriusXM FC is here.
Wayne Rooney hits it home on the volley.
The first 24-hour SiriusXM channel dedicated to soccer. Hear play-by-play of the Champions League and the English Premier League. Plus, a best soccer talk featuring former US captain John Hart, former Newcastle midfielder Ray Hudson, former Red Bulls GM Charlie Stellatana, and former United States and New York Red Bulls goalkeeper Tony Miola.
He's got his hat-trick!
SiriusXM FC going on now on SiriusXM 94.
SiriusXM Left.
There's a lot of reasons people should just sort of let go of the American dream.
The political revolution is being broadcast. SiriusXM Left, 127.
The American Dream. The American Dream is a sad, old, repetitive nightmare from which people awake occasionally screaming, take a pill, and go back to sleep. That is the American dream. So here we have this election coming up. You know, if you've listened to me, and you've heard a lot of callers calling up and yelling at me, that I've been an ardent Jill Stein supporter, and I still am. The other night at the debate between the 2 corporate candidates, which took place in Hempstead. Hempstead, by the way, is on Long Island. And the debate took place at Hofstra University, which a couple of hundred years ago when I went there was called Hofstra College. It was a nowhere little college. It was founded in 1936. And when I went there, it was 1966. So it wasn't very old. Maybe 7 or 8 small little buildings, a tiny little outdoor football stadium, and hardly anything else. They had sororities and fraternities. They had almost no political activity, and if you took a meter to measure intellectual activity, it might not have lifted far above 0 out at this place. I went. Why did I go there? Why was I there? Because I never studied in school or paid any attention in class or did any homework, so I graduated with a 72 average in high school. So when all my friends went off to the city university system, where you had to have an extremely high average just to get in, I couldn't get in. So I had to cast around if I was going to go to college, and I guess that's sort of where I was going. I mean, one did not, I had to go to college. I mean, I didn't know how to do anything. I wasn't about to go to work. I don't know. It was a bad scene altogether. But basically they expected me to go to college, and that was what expected me. So I got into this college. I got into 1 or 2 colleges, really low-level colleges. And this was a place in the 1960s. When I went there, I went in 1960. When did I graduate? 1962, and I graduated in 66. And of course, right in the middle of it, the Vietnam War broke out. And I was interested to read in the New York Times the afternoon of the debate, the issue of the Times that day before the debate happened this past Tuesday. That they had an article in there. They showed tables where people were manning and womaning outside the debate center, outside the auditorium there. And they were one of them was for the Young Democrats. There's a Young Democrats Club on campus. There was a Young Democrats Club on campus in Hofstra, and there were 12 members of it. 12 members, which increased after the war, after the Vietnam War broke out, to 20 people. This is Nassau County, when I went there, which is where this took place, was at that time the richest county in the United States, richer than any place, like wherever Beverly Hills is, or think of some very rich town or city and the county that it's in, like Westchester County in New York. The richest county in the United States was Nassau County, where the school was. The school itself was on government land. It was originally land that was owned, I think, by the Defense Department. And it was granted or leased to Hofstra College. And as a result, you had to be in the Reserve Officers Training Corps. Every male who went into this place had to join the ROTC. ROTC. I don't know if people even know what that is anymore. I don't think there is any more ROTC. It was called ROTC. It's Reserve Officers Training Corps, rather. And if you went to a college that had any kind of land grant from the United States government, and specifically from the Defense Department, in certain places did it. It had been an airfield once upon a time. Every male who went to this school had to join this, and you had to wear a uniform, and you had to exercise. You do drill. You had to every week, every 4 weeks, I think you had to spend a Saturday afternoon learning how to shoot dummies or whatever it is that you did, and every male had to join this, right? The only way to get out of it was if you were disabled, literally, and you couldn't march and you couldn't train to murder people. And the other way you get out of it is join the marching band. And I joined the marching band. I played the trombone, and I joined the marching band because there was no way in this fucking world I was going to join the Reserve Officers Training Corps. I was not going to wear a uniform for any country. It wasn't World War II. We're talking Vietnam here. So I set up. So I joined the Young Democrats. And why? Because in 1964, Bobby Kennedy made a speech at Hofstra in 1964. This is only like a year after his brother had been killed, right? And he was getting ready to run for senator. He was running for senator. He comes out, and he was the most passionate speaker I had ever seen in my life. I mean, this guy was fiery, and that was when Bobby Kennedy was undergoing a serious change. I mean, he started out as a stone, devolutionary right-wing pit bull. He worked for the House Un-American Activities Committee as a counsel. He was as right-wing as it gets. He was anti-communist. He was really bad news, and even at a very young age. He was a tough guy, and he came out there after his brother was killed, and he underwent a massive spiritual and political, change in his life. And he came out and spoke at Hofstra, and he electrified everybody, me included. And he was running, and then the Vietnam War started. So I joined the Young Democrats. Eventually, the club got bigger and bigger. It had 20 or 30 members. But this is still a very Republican place. For instance, this is the kind of place it was. In 1965, I took a bunch of people in the club because I was elected president, right, of the club. And I took them out on the streets of Hempstead, which was a very poor black neighborhood. And we were trying to get people to register to vote, right? Speaking of current issues. The cops pulled up. This is Nassau County, a Republican place, completely dominated by the Republican Party. Cops pulled up, jumped out of the car, grabbed us, threw our flyers in the air, ripped them up, spit on them, and threw us up against the wall. Bam, bam, bam. They threw me up against the wall, threw one of the girls in the club up against the wall, and said, "Don't let us ever catch you with these, you fucking communists, with this stuff in your hands again. We don't want to see this," right? People hiding behind, behind stores, behind doors, everything. This is the kind of place it was, right? And this is the kind of place that Hofstra was in those days. And the head of the Democratic Party out there was an old friend of the Kennedys, and he was backing Johnson. And Johnson was, expanding this war. He was expanding this insane, violent, horrible war, Vietnam. And people were being drafted. It was really awful. It was as bad as it could get in 65. Coming to 66, he calls me down to the office because I had started setting up a table in the midst of this place. This is like, you understand, this was business majors and elementary school majors. We're not dealing with very bright people here. But the school, because they wanted to be something better, they had a lot of money, this school. They had a lot of rich alumni. A lot of people who had gone there had built up a lot of big businesses, some of them, and there was a lot of money coming in there. So they went and hired for this idiot student body they had there, all these sorority, fraternity, cement heads, and the ROTC guys, the Reserve Officers Training Corps. They hired some of the most brilliant Ivy League teachers they could find, and they were paying people a lot of money. They were paying more to their teachers than any other school in the country at the time to try to get better teachers so they could get better students. So you'd wind up going to a class with like 20 other people, a political science class or an English class, and they had no idea what anybody was talking about, but there was one or two of us that did. And we had this great education because we would sit there in class, and sometimes the teachers would get so irritated with these boobs that they were, brought in to teach, that they would dismiss them early and keep a couple of us around, and we had these personal seminars with these teachers. It was the kind of place it was. So the war is going on and on and on. finally, it's too much for me. I couldn't stand the idea that the government was doing this, right, 65. And I had already been in some demonstrations in the city. I set up a table on the campus. And the only time anybody had set up a table on that campus was for the sorority girls to sell home-baked cakes for the football team and for the Reserve Officers Training Corps. So I sit down there. The colonel, the student colonel of the Reserve Officers Training Corps, comes over to the table, and he's got 3 or 4. And they're all on the football team, same guys, right? His officer corps, you know what I mean? Cement head 1, 2, and 3. So they come over, and he says, "What do you got there?" And I said, "Well, these are leaflets protesting the war, you know, explaining that this is an immoral war." What did they do? In the great history, in the great style of American free discourse, they ripped my table to pieces. They kicked it over, and they went to knock the shit out of us, and the campus police arrived just in time, right, to prevent a big fight from going on. Wouldn't have been much of a fight, believe me. But they destroyed the table and and ripped up the leaflets. This is the kind of place it was, right? So it was fascinating for me to see these people come out there. So that was the Hofstra once upon a time, right? And the head of the Democratic Party calls me down. He said, "I heard there was trouble." Everybody knew everybody there, right? It was an old boys club, right? You know. So the head of the Democratic Party calls me down, and he was pals with Johnson. This guy, he was a big influential guy, right? He calls me down. He says, "What are you doing? You're setting up a table against the war? It's Democratic Party policy to support this war." I said, "No, not in my Democratic club." He says, "Well, you run the risk of losing, your presidency out there, right?" And I said, "Big." He didn't know who he's talking to, right? It's a big fucking deal. So I'll go read another book. That's about what it meant to me, right? But as long as I was the president of Young Democrats, I was going to do as I was going to do, right? He could take it away from me, and I would just find something else to do. But meanwhile, he says, "You better not do that anymore." I said, "Well, I am going to do it." He says, "Well, then you're going to be cut off. You're going to be excommunicated." Like he was, all these guys were Catholic out there, right? He's going to cut me off. He's going to excommunicate me from the Democratic Party. I guess that means I would burn in hell. I don't know how that works. But I said, "Forget it. I'm going to do it anyhow." So he says, you're in a lot of trouble. And he stands up. He was a Marine, all these guys. He was a Marine in World War II. He still had the buzz cut. He says, "You're in a lot of trouble, mister." And I said, "Oh, fuck you." So I walk out of the office, and that's it. And I just organized more and more people, and more students got involved in it because they could see what was happening. Also, because everybody stood to be drafted the second day, after they graduated. That was it. So it was a big thing. So here I am now, all these years later, and I'm watching these two corporate stooges debate each other, right? And believe me, I say that. I'm not just throwing phrases around. There's an article today in the New York Times here. Front page, strategizing for the president and her corporate clients, too. In the rarefied world of political consultants who straddle the line between campaign advisor and corporate strategist, Anita Dunn has few peers. And there's a picture of this woman walking with the president and David Plouffe, or whatever his name is, who's the secretary, I don't know what he is, chief of staff or something, or major political advisor. As a confidant of President Obama and a senior campaign advisor, Ms. Dunn has helped prepare him for the debates this month, plotted campaign strategy, and acted as a surrogate of sorts in attacking Mitt Romney for a backward-looking attitude on issues like women's rights and health care. She and her colleagues at SKD Knickerbocker, a communications firm, i.e. a lobbying firm, have built a growing list of blue-chip companies, food manufacturers, military contractor, the New York Stock Exchange, a Canadian company developing the XL pipeline. She is the main, or one of the two main political advisors for President Obama, right, who is talking about jobs. He's talking about the environment. He's talking about protecting folks, just regular folks in the United States, right? He's talking about all this stuff. And this woman who advises him has been involved in a revolving door of the most insane kind you ever saw. She's been working all her life advising senators and congressmen, and then she takes 6 months off, goes back to this company where they're in, lobbying the government. The same committee she's advising, they're appearing in front of. Let me tell you what this woman does. She's the main political advisor, really, for the president, aside from David Axelrod. Let me just turn to this over here. It's page 13. These are some of the things she does. She's attended 100 White House meetings since leaving her. It says here communications job. This word communications is bullshit. It's a lobbying job. And he's the one, theoretically, who forbade people to lobby. He was going to come down hard on lobbying. One of the most powerful, one of the most effective lobbyists for some of the worst companies in the world is his closest political advisor. All right? Let's see, what else? Let's see. She represents manufacturers and media companies in an attempt, this is her company, an attempt to block guidelines intended to curb food commercials for unhealthy products like sugared cereals that are aimed at children. And then because her lobbying, the administration, this administration, ultimately dropped the proposed limits on this stuff, right? She has also helped run industry coalitions seeking to influence federal policy on particular issues, working with lobbyists, etc. Google, Disney, Pepsi, Microsoft. Here's one. She works with major corporations to make sure that there are fewer tax burdens placed on profits in offshore firms. And she's the major advisor to him. She represents Pratt Whitney as a lobbyist. They make weapons. And she represents that in front of committees. Let's see, what else? The New York Stock Exchange. She gets when they wanted to have a merger with the German Stock Exchange, she calls up Timothy Geithner. She calls up all these people she knows. She speaks to people in the White House. Laws get dropped. Rules get changed in favor of her corporate clients. She's a pig. She's one of the head pigs of Pigland. And she's the major advisor to the President of the United States. Here's what I have to say. Recently, Noam Chomsky and Daniel Ellsberg. Daniel Ellsberg is one of my true heroes, right? A guy who was a Marine in Vietnam, saw the light, joined the State Department, tried to influence things, finally smuggles the Pentagon Papers out, which showed how awful this war was and how people we were all being lied to. Ellsberg, and still to this day, is in his 80s. He gets arrested, protesting the government policies, Obama's policies, which are worse in some cases than Bush's, And this guy came out the other day, along with Chomsky, who I look up to in various ways, and they said this. They said there is still a difference between these two people. And if you live in a swing state, they're urging you to vote for Obama, even though they consider him, according to Ellsberg, for instance, quote unquote, impeachable Obama for what he's done. And he really is a son of a bitch and a liar. In many ways, a very dangerous person to the average American. They are saying, don't vote for a third-party candidate, for Jill Stein or for other people, especially for a president, if you live in a swing state. So I am going to go along with this. As much as I detest this man and the Democratic Party, I am going to go along with this because I believe, as I've always believed, it's not news to me, that I guess it's more revealed now in the last few weeks. And I see more and more things happening, and some of the people I've been interviewing on the air here and people I'm going to talk to even later tonight at 7, the kind of person you're dealing with in Romney and Ryan, it's become more and more evident even to me who knew about it beforehand. As bad as Obama is, and he's pretty fucking bad, he, on certain important issues, like when it comes to out-and-out war with Iran, Supreme Court appointments, and equal protection for women, those three things, among other things, I think you really do have to get this guy elected. I think we're all in a lot of trouble here with him as president, and I think our constitutional rights are being trampled into the mud by him. I think he's a corporate stooge. I really do believe he is, and clearly he is. I mean, just look at the paper here. I'll show it to you. I mean, really, he's as bad as it gets. But he's not as bad, even still, as Romney and Ryan. They would privatize Social Security. They would put Stone Age Neanderthals on the Supreme Court. Women would be turned into slaves or property again. That's how bad they are. So I am altering my point of view. I'm voting for Jill Stein because I don't live in a swing state. But I'm going along with Daniel Ellsberg. And he may be on the air here. I've invited him on for next week or the week after. I'm urging people to vote for Obama. Hold your nose and get some Mylanta for your stomach. Whatever you need to do. Vote for Obama and for congressional Democrats in swing states. But if you don't live in a swing state, do the right thing and vote for Jill Stein. Give her some respectability. All right, we're gonna get off right now, and we're gonna come back in a little while. Oh, by the way, if you want to get involved in this conversation, or if you want to yell at me or agree with me, best place to do it is, once again, this Facebook page. It's called Occupied Territory. Occupied Territory, and it's on Facebook. It's a Facebook page. Go there, and we have a lively discussion going on about this. So I am altering my point of view. I am saying that much. I'm making that kind of concession. If you live in a swing state, I think probably you do have to vote for Obama. But if you don't live in a swing state, you lucky, like me. You don't have to get your hands and your soul dirty by voting for this man. You can vote for a Jill Stein and do the right thing. She got herself arrested out there the other day. This is a woman who gathered, enough to be on 85% of the ballots in the United States. She could theoretically win the presidency. She's on that many ballots to win electoral votes, right? She could do all this. She's got federal matching funds, right? She is qualified, according to the Presidential Commission on Debates, the Commission for Presidential Debates, to be on that stage, and yet they froze her off the stage. It's undemocratic. It's illegal. But still, I think it's necessary, still, with all of this, to vote for this guy. And if he gets elected, we can go after him as much as we always have. And it's not just him. Anybody who represents us, who is trampling all over our rights and our ability to live a decent life, we need to go after. That's what this show is here for.
Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. Sounds whisper. Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution.
Stephanie Miller on Sirius XM Left.
Did you see this? The Gallup adjusted and unadjusted unemployment rate trend tumbles down to 7.3. This is a new low.
Wow.
More good news for America, baby.
More bad news for Ryan's previous news. Got something else to whine about. Why don't they keep cooking the books to make it look
Gallup,
better?
obviously, on the numbers cooking. Sure.
The Stephanie Miller Show. Weekdays at 10 a.m. East, 7 West. On Sirius XM Left. 127.
Investors, imagine the most exclusive Smoky Mountain property at bank-owned prices. Up to 8-acre lots with mountain views from $9,900 that were $139,000. This special bank-owned sale is one day only, Saturday, October 27th. These premium Smoky Mountain home sites border a national forest and have endless mountain views with elevations up to 4,400 feet. Plus, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own one of a few ultra-exclusive lots with up to 40-foot natural waterfalls from as low as $59,900 that were $400,000. Buy directly from the bank and save thousands with no time limit to build. Minutes away from Bryson City, Harris Cherokee Casino, and Fontana Lake. A perfect vacation getaway or a gigantic investment opportunity. The sale is Saturday, October 27th, by appointment only. Call 800-684-4611. The bank says everything must go. So call 800-684-4611. That's 800-684-4611. Financing available.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-836-3177 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 800-836-3177 to take your call now. Call 800-836-3177. That's 800-836-3177. Again, 800-836-3177.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Everybody has a calling. Figure out what that is and get about the business of doing it.
It's Oprah. Join us as the pages of the Oprah magazine come to life at OU. This year from the Los Angeles Convention Center, we'll feature all of your O Magazine favorites, including Gayle King, Susie Orman, and Martha Beck.
You are a natural genius, but you don't know it.
For an incredible event devoted to helping you live your best life. Join us for an OU special event all next week on Oprah Radio, Sirius 204 XM 111.
Sirius XM Left.
You got to find a common ground way out of it. It's not going to be your way or the highway.
Fairness. Equality. Sirius XM Left. 127.
AP Radio News. I'm Carlotta Bradley. While President Barack Obama and Mitt Romney drop out of sight for debate prep, their running mates campaign, Vice President Joe Biden says Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, unlike President Obama and himself, refused to nail down a U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, saying it depends on conditions.
It all depends. Ladies and gentlemen, the American people are looking to depend on a president who says what he means and means what he says.
Biden was in Florida. Republican vice presidential nominee Paul Ryan was in Pennsylvania, telling supporters he can relate to gun owners and hunters in the state.
I come from Wisconsin. It's a lot like Pennsylvania. You know, one of the reasons why on my phone I've got a blaze orange and camouflage case on my phone is because this reminds me that after this election, my daughter is 10 years old. She gets to shoot her first deer this year.
Thousands of demonstrators descend on the British capital in a protest at a government austerity program.
Protesters have poured down London streets in a demonstration against reductions to public sector spending, which officials are pushing through in order to rein in Britain's debt. A debt now standing at around $1.7 trillion. Some protesters shouted slogans and others booed as they passed near the Prime Minister's home in Downing Street. But unlike some rallies elsewhere in Europe, which developed into riots, this march has appeared to go off without violence. Charles de Ledesma, London.
Poor corporate earnings reports sounded a sour note to end an otherwise strong week of trading on Wall Street. Standard & Poor's stock analyst Alec Young says corporate earnings growth is slowing down.
The Capital IQ consensus is looking for earnings to basically be flat on a year-over-year basis in the third quarter for the S&P 500. That would mark the slowest profit growth since the third quarter of 2009.
The Dow Industrials fell more than 200 points yesterday, the worst day in 4 months. This is AP Radio News. There's a recall on spray bottles of Banana Boat sunscreen because of fire danger.
Energizer Holdings says it's recalling 23 varieties of Banana Boat Ultra Mist sunscreen because it has the potential to ignite when exposed to fire. There have been 5 reports of people who suffered burns. A company spokesman says the problem appears to be caused by the spray valve, which is over-applying the product. It's taking longer to dry, and that causes the risk of flammability. The company says it does expect to release new spray products soon, but says users should always avoid open flames, even smoking, when spraying on lotion. Jackie Quinn, Washington.
A White House executive order would direct U.S. spy agencies to share intelligence about cyber threats with companies running electric grids, water plants, railroads, and other vital industries. That's according to a copy of the draft order obtained by the Associated Press. I'm Carlotta Bradley, AP Radio News.
Okay, we're back. This is Mike Fader, Sirius XM Left 127. We do have some people on the line, and we're waiting for our next guest. Who should we go to? Leon, you're on, Leon.
Hey, I heard your endorsement for Obama.
It's not an endorsement for Obama.
I know. So if you don't have anything nice to say about the guy, why don't you just shut the fuck up, huh?
Thank you very much, Leon. Very, very helpful. Paul from Wisconsin.
Oh, hi, Mike.
Hey.
Hey, I hate listening to you because you hit all the good points about why I hate all these here corporate bastards, you know. Life is hard enough for a working person out here without every time you go to the grocery store and you see what the corporate bastards are doing to us.
Man, those prices the food prices are really going through the roof. It's amazing. Well, part of that is the drought, I guess, but...
They look for any reason to raise the price of stuff. If they get a windstorm down in South America, they raise the banana and coffee prices. It's automatic. It's any way to stick it to the consumer.
Well, it's true. It's classic also with the gasoline prices. I mean, really, the amount of domestic production is higher than it's ever been for 20 or 30 years, and yet the price keeps going up. How is that? You know.
Yeah, and I really can't see ever voting for another president that isn't corporate owned, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I hate Obama. I live in a swing state. I'm going to have to vote for Obama. I hate him because he's owned by the corporation. He wasn't even in office for 30 days, and he made another deal with Big Pharma.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what the hell, is that? he didn't even see we were going to debate it. I thought everything was going to be out in the open. But he's just another corporate bastard like all the rest of the presidents.
But I guess we'll have this discussion in the next couple of weeks over and over again. But and my guest is on the line now. We're going to talk about financial stuff, so I hope you'll listen. But that's what I'm saying these days. I've sort of altered my position. I'm still not in a swing state. I'm going to vote for Jill Stein. There's no way on earth I'll ever vote for Obama wherever I live. He gets worse every day. I find out something worse about this guy. So. But if you live in a swing state, I'm going to go along with what Ellsberg and Chomsky said.
I feel I have no choice because I got a wife and 2 daughters.
Mm.
And I feel that life's hard enough on women as it is.
Yeah, it has to be that way. But still,
But then when you got men telling women how to do it, I don't want my neighbor telling my wife when she could, what drugs to take or all this stuff. And that's what it's coming down to. Say, hey, look, you can't take aspirins or what and this. Because once you start that going to the extent that you don't want a woman to figure out what the heck to do with their own body, next thing you know, you're prescribing aspirins when she thinks she's got a headache,
Well, I think it's necessary to vote for Obama because that way men and women will have total equality when Homeland Security comes to arrest them. All right, so I got to go to talk to my guest. We finally got him on the line. So call back later if you want to talk.
All right.
Okay, Paul. All right. So we all saw these debates, the last 3 debates, 2 from the 2 corporate puppets, and then we have the junior corporate puppets. So we saw all the debates, and we heard all these figures thrown around, which glaze people's eyes over. I mean, these people live in a very strange little bubble. When they debate each other, they throw around words like GDP, fiscal cliff. One of them says, I created 5 million jobs. The other one said, I created 8 million jobs. And then, Victor Frankenstein comes in and says, I created a monster. I mean, what does it all mean? All these numbers means a lot to them, but it doesn't mean anything to 95% of the people watching. And if it does, it's boring anyhow. It's not really has to do with your life. However, there are serious economic issues here, which we're all talking about. And I thought we would get somebody on here to help sort of clarify what they're talking about, what's true, what's not true, not necessarily in a partisan way, but just so we can understand what's going on. And that's why we have Mr. Leopold with us, Les Leopold. Hiya.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Okay. Did you want to update people a little bit, give them some major bio stuff about yourself?
No, same old stuff. My current book that's still available is The Looting of America. Mm-hmm. People might enjoy that one. I've got a new one coming out in January called How to Make $1 Million an Hour.
Oh, this is, I see that. You mentioned in this article I read 8 facts that prove our government is not going broke, which I mean, that's alternate, gives a title to these things. It says about Pete Peterson, the billionaire former private equity mogul. Yeah.
So, and I'm trying to write stuff for alternate as much as they'll have me.
Yeah, I've been reading your articles. It's always helpful to read them. So maybe you can help us out here. I mean, we heard all these things that are being thrown around, and these issues are constantly thrown around. They repeat them so often, and they use so many numbers that it becomes meaningless after a while. But the last thing I saw somewhere, and I forget where it was, some somewhat responsible organization said that the current debt is or will soon be $16 trillion.
Yeah, well, so what?
Well, tell me.
Let me start with this overall. Give you a couple overall themes.
Sure.
Virtually everything you hear about the economy from the major political parties is wrong, and we're trapped in a debate that is very negative for all of us because the basic assumptions are wrong. The reality that we ought to be dealing with is Wall Street's gotten much too large, and that we should be taxing Wall Street to pay back the damage that it created. Wall Street is what blew a hole in our economy, costing 8 million jobs in a matter of months. Wall Street's costing us a fortune to pay back in terms of all the programs we need to put in place to try to get the economy going again. They should pay us back for the damage that they've done. That's the real discussion.
All right.
But no one's talking about that. So instead, they're talking about debt. So why has debt increased for the government? Number one, it's increased because we had two unfunded wars, or wars put on a credit card. That's number one. Number two, we had the bailouts to bail out Wall Street and to patch a hole into the economy. And number three, we had the Bush tax cuts for the super rich. If those three things went away, there would be zero yearly deficit. Nothing. It would be a balanced budget. It has nothing to do with Social Security. It has nothing to do with Medicare or Medicaid. It has everything to do with the unfunded wars, the Bush tax cuts, which are now the Bush-Obama tax cuts, and what we had to do to patch up a hole that Wall Street created.
Well, one or two questions about what you just said. So one war has been about 90% wound down. The 10%, which is like 50,000 troops, contractors, and CIA people are going to stick around there, the Green Zone, whatever, how much that costs. And then,
a lot.
A lot. A lot. But not what it did before. And then the war in Afghanistan, if Obama is elected, will probably get wound down. I mean, it's going to have to get wound down one way or another because, well, I shouldn't say that because Romney's crazy enough to keep pursuing it. But still, if Obama gets in on these wars, both of them...
That will help.
Okay, that'll help.
Now, the tax cuts, though, that's a big one.
But these tax cuts include tax cuts for middle-class people, too, right?
Most of them, if you ever look at a chart, it's like what the rest of us got is like the bar goes up just a little bit, and then it goes down to what the super rich got, and the bar goes through the roof. They got most of it. Mm-hmm. So that plus the financial transaction tax on Wall Street, and you go a long way to patching up whatever debt we have. The other thing to remember is debt is only a relevant number based on your income. So if you've got a big income, in other words, the United States is producing a lot of wealth, and it can borrow money cheaply, it ought to. Because right now, what we need to do is put our people back to work. And if that means creating public jobs for them, we should do that. That's a very smart thing to do, not a stupid thing to do.
When you say public jobs, you mean actual government jobs
or
jobs like...
I don't care what they are.
Okay.
I don't care whether they're government or they're given to contractors. I actually don't. I really don't care.
But paid for.
You can't have all these people unemployed. It's crazy.
But paid for by the government.
Paid for by the government.
Okay.
Paid for because even if it's borrowed money, because we're able to borrow money right now at interest rates that are virtually at zero. By the way, Japan has a debt that's twice as big as ours relative to their economy, and people are dying to loan them money because it's a safe place to put them. We're the last place on earth that will have a debt crisis. The last place, unless Congress does something stupid and refuses to increase the debt level so that they'd be, unable to roll over our debts. The only people that can hurt us are politicians internally. Externally, people are dying to lend us money. It's the safest place to put their money.
But what is all this mythology from both parties? Like Obama makes these deals with Republicans. We have to have a committee.
It was the dumbest thing he ever did because by what should have happened at the very beginning, instead of giving tax cuts, that a lot of it went to the rich again, we should have been giving money to the state and local governments to say, don't lay anybody off. Instead, we laid off 650,000 public workers. That's a difference between 7.8% unemployment and something like 6.5%. Obama would be sitting pretty right now if he hadn't have done that. But this idea of debt is such a powerful meme in the consciousness of Americans. They think, oh my God, it's like my household debt. Mm-hmm. Well, if you have a household debt, you owe a mortgage, and it's what percentage of your net worth is that? A country, we're not going to go bankrupt. We're not Greece. We're the largest economy in the world. We're too big to fail. This is the one time too big to fail works for us.
Well, let me ask you. So we're the largest.
You put people back to work. They start paying taxes. Your economy starts growing again, and your debt becomes a smaller percentage overnight. And it becomes much less of a problem. That's how you pay back your debt. You put people back to work.
Well, you said that government workers laid off, mostly at the state level, and then federal government they froze, salaries and everything.
That's right.
But for instance, let me give you an example. Like, I forget if it was a small town. It was either Alabama or Mississippi. Maybe you know which one it was, where they just stopped paying people's pensions, the cops, the firemen. You know what I mean? Older people who had worked for 30 years as a cop or a fireman or whatever, as a nurse in a city hospital. They just stopped paying their pensions. How they live, God knows, right? But all over the country, states are saying some of them.
Afford it. Right.
That they're
Screw the
broke.
public workers.
They're broke. Why are they broke?
Because it's harder for them to go in debt. They can do it, but they have to have something close to a balanced budget every year. So it's tougher for them. So when revenues go down, look, it's very simple. The Wall Street crash created unemployment. The unemployment caused a crash in revenues and an increase in expenses on a state level. So revenues went way down. Taxes, property taxes went way down because houses, prices collapsed. So local governments ran into problems, state governments ran into problems, so they started slashing things.
And now they're selling off city halls, leasing highways.
Yeah, and none of that was necessary. All that should have been, look, instead of letting Wall Street people collect bonuses, the money should have gone, they should have been, we should have said something very simple to them. First of all, when these banks get into trouble, we should have said, look, all those managers, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye. New team coming in. Number two, you're going to be operating under a financial transaction tax. Every little trade you make from here on in, we're getting a piece of it forever. Or if you want to be a little bit more conservative, until unemployment comes down to 5%.
But who is the federal government to tell a private corporation like Bank of America to fire their managers?
Because we own them. They're not a private. They're a private corporation. The way a monopoly in Russia is a private corporation. Mm-hmm. They're not your mom and pop drugstore. This is an organization that was on life support, and we bailed them out. So once you bail them out, you own them. In other words, if Buffett went and gave them money,
mm-hmm.
he'd get a piece of the action. First of all, he'd get a huge return on his money, saying, "Oh, you're going to go under. I'm taking a risk, so I'll bail you out, but I own you." That's the way it works. That's the way it works in capitalism.
But we did own part of GM. That much I understand. But something happened. Do we forget to sign the contract
small potatoes? Yeah, we forgot for the largest banks.
Yeah,
we forgot to sign the contract. Because our both the Bush Wall Street people and then the Obama Wall Street people said, no. Here's what happens. We have to resurrect Wall Street, get them on their feet together, and then the rest of the economy will follow. That's all we have to do. So don't screw around with them. Don't take their profits away. Underwrite all their toxic mortgages, all the garbage, the toxic assets on their books. We underwrote them. Citibank, right? Citicorp.
So how did
$300 billion worth of this garbage that we now insure?
But how did we fail to put our foot in the door and actually attain legal ownership of part of this? How did we fail to do that?
Because they're big boys. And they have a lot of influence, and they made their case, and they had their own people inside, like Summers, Geithner, guys like this, Paulson before him, and they don't think in those terms.
Now,
sorry. It's a whole different mindset. If you're sitting on Wall Street, first of all, you think every penny you're making is legitimate, even though you can't prove that you've done anything of value to create the money. That's what the next book's about.
Mm-hmm.
But you think it's true. That you're God's gift to the world because you're making so much money. And as a result, you're the center of the universe. When your universe starts to collapse, you do everything you can to patch it up. You get the federal government to help you, and you think you're helping the whole world.
Well, I guess the federal government, in the image of President Obama, believes the same thing they do, right?
Yeah. Obama's had some twitches of conscience along the way.
Twitches,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
But virtually all his advisors, all the people he brought on board, said the same thing, which is we've got to the way they put it is we've got to stabilize the financial sector. We have to unfreeze it. We have to get money circulating again, or we're going to go back to the Great Depression.
Well, how does that theory work? In other words, if we get investment banks and large, huge banks were up on their feet working again, then theoretically they would loan money, and that money would grow businesses who would hire employees. Is that?
It's more basic than that, actually.
Yeah.
Just kind of imagine. Look at this picture. You've got 6 banks that roughly control, 70% of all banking. All right, and consider the money that they're moving around the same thing as blood in your bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they're moving the blood through the whole system. They're not just making loans to businesses to invest and create jobs. They're giving money out to businesses just to make payroll. No company in this country uses their own money to make payroll. They borrow the money, and the stuff sold in money market funds, and it's 30-day papers turned over and over and over again. everybody borrows money. State and local government borrows money. Everybody borrows money to kind of do short-term stuff as well as medium and long-term stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of blood circulating. What happened was when all these toxic assets built up and nobody knew where they were anymore, nobody lent any money to anybody. So it was like having a heart attack. The blood froze. So when the blood froze, economic activity all over the place stopped. So what the government was looking at from their point of view was a patient that is having a heart attack. So you got to do everything you can to get the blood flowing again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were doing. What do we have to do? We'll guarantee everything because nobody trusts anybody. We'll guarantee money market funds. We'll guarantee the banks. We'll guarantee everybody.
All right. So we gave them all this blood. We hooked them up to the federal IV, right?
We got it flowing again.
We got it flowing again. And then why aren't we all in good shape now if the blood is flowing?
Well, just like when you have a heart attack, a piece of your heart dies.
Yeah.
Well, when the economy had a heart attack, 8 million workers' jobs died because the spigot was turned off long enough that economic activity came crashing down. Plus, the reason they had the heart attack was that they created and profited on a bubble on the way up and on the way down, the housing bubble, which was the and all the lack of regulations around that,
and then turning that into derivatives and securities,
all that kind of garbage.
Okay.
So that thing came crashing down, and so there were dire consequences for real people. So even when the spigot got turned on again, and the institutional failures, after Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, and they stopped AIG from going under, and there was talk that Goldman Sachs was and Morgan Stanley were about to go under, because they couldn't get access to blood. It wasn't just that some of them had garbage on their books, like Citigroup, which was a basket cake, and AIG. Mm-hmm. Others just couldn't get blood. No one's going to give them any money. So that meant that they couldn't make their short-term loans and bills, and it was all going to come crashing down.
So obviously, if the people of the United States, because when the government gives money, it's the people of the United States' money. It's your money and my money, right? They didn't ask me, by the way, but anyhow. So we give them all this money, and they get better, but they don't thank the doctor in any way, right?
Well, the doctor didn't say, by the way, I'm taking a lien on your house in exchange for this blood. We should have said, we're going to pass these regulations now, the financial transaction tax, Glass-Steagall, and, by the way, no bank can be bigger than X. We're going to break you all up. That all should have happened right away, but they were afraid to do it because they were worried it was going to lead to another heart attack.
Well, when the banks did get back on their feet, more or less, or relatively, then why still haven't we done it?
Too late.
Too late? Why too late?
Well, because they had the hooks into the politicians, enough of them. They had enough Democrats. They had all the Republicans.
And they got the White House, too, I guess.
Well, they had some advisors at the White House, and they had enough senators, that they made their case. They said, look, we didn't do anything wrong. The guys that did everything wrong, they're dead now. They're Merrill Lynch.
So the only way that we can create jobs in this country now is for the government to do what it did in the 30s, is to the government to fund massive employment, right?
Well, actually, what we did in the 40s, because we didn't do enough. Actually, the 30s was kind of weak on that front. We really did it during World War II.
Well, but there was a war then. Do we need to have a big war to do this?
No, you just need to spend a lot of money on it.
And where does this money come from?
Doesn't matter. Borrow it.
From the Chinese.
Only
the Saudis.
By the way, 8% of our debt is owned by the Chinese.
So who's got the rest of it? Who owns the rest of the debt?
30 to 40% is owned by the Federal Reserve and the Social Security Fund. We basically borrow it from ourselves.
Okay, so
the Chinese thing. I'm telling you, whatever you hear in these debates about the economy, you better have a big salt shaker there and eat a lot of grains. Because it's so far from reality. It's like this make believe. It's as you said, it's a mythology. It's a way to massage the American people, and because they've been fed this garbage, so now the politicians have to appeal to it.
So on a practical basis, here we have millions of people unemployed. What could be done, let's say, in the next, forget about the election, then maybe, God forbid, lame duck, or Obama gets in again. Starting in January, what should be done in the first 2 or 3 months from January onward to get hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people working? I mean, specifically, what happens?
The very best thing to do would be pass a financial transaction tax, and then this would put a couple of million people out of the unemployment rolls almost instantly. Pass the financial transaction tax, and then give the money to public colleges and universities, and have all public universities, colleges, 2-year schools go tuition free.
So there wouldn't. So
no
there
more student loans.
No more. So there no more student loans. No more student debt.
Right.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, you'd have a lot more prosperous families, and you'd have this building boom at these universities. As people, you don't change your admission standards.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your admission standards the same. But you'd have all these people coming who are unemployed would start trying to get into school. You'd have the schools would make more space. You'd have a building boom on campuses. You'd have a hiring boom on campuses, and you'd have the unemployment rate would come crashing down.
And then the general populace would be more educated, because now we're somewhere like 23rd in the world in terms of
pathetic.
Yeah.
The other thing I would do immediately would just say, okay, we're going to spend, $50 billion, $100 billion to weatherize, every building in the country,
mm-hmm.
and we'll use contractors fine, but we're going to pay for it out of the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing would be give money to state and local governments that don't God forbid, they don't lay anybody off, and maybe they'll start hiring some people back.
So the Republic,
and in a matter of a year, you'd probably cut the unemployment rate down to 6%.
What if we had a 60% or even a 70% tax rate on individuals who make over $1 million, and if all the corporations were made to pay their tax bill? I mean, that would count too, right?
Well, it would help, but the thing to do is you got to get rid of capital gains before you raise as you're raising the marginal tax rate on rich people. I'd be more generous. I would have it go up to 40%
mm-hmm.
at 1 million. Then the next dollar 40%, and then at 5 million, make it 50%. I would grade it up so that at 10 million you start paying 60 and 70% of the next
mm-hmm.
dollar. But you have to make sure the capital gains is taxed like everything else. And it all, carried interest, this thing that.
This is how Romney lives.
So they're paying 15%.
Right.
You got to make sure the capital gains and dividends get taxed the same way. Then you could do that. That would help.
Well,
the key thing is getting the most important thing is not just getting back at the rich guys. It's putting people to work. That's the most important thing.
But this, we have a massive crash in 1929. We've had tremendous recessions, gigantic market crashes in the 80s, and this time and that time, and this happens all the time. You've got a patient basically who's a heart patient, right?
But hang on. Here, there's more. There's a finer grain that we need to look at. Up until the Great Depression, this is the next piece I'm writing for Alternate. Up until the Great Depression, we did have these incredible periodic, what they called panics.
Right.
And that led to bank runs, and then it led to banks collapsing like dominoes and corporations collapsing. And then the big corporations.
And then people lost all their money. There's no FDIC.
Lost their money,
right.
And the tremendous unemployment, and then it would settle down again. And people thought that's the way the system would work. And then finally, and underneath this, though, we also had this ever-increasing productive capacity. So we could produce more with fewer people. Well, so the private sector could no longer possibly hire enough people to produce what it needed to produce.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need that many people. We were machinery, knowledge, the technology was so advanced in the 20s already that we didn't need that many people on the farms anymore. We did not need that many people in the factories anymore. So when the Great Depression hit, that was the mother of all panics. And now it looked like the whole system was going to collapse. And compared to Russia, the capitalist nations were sucking air.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the rise of communism, you had the rise of fascism in Europe. You had real trouble. Well, what we learned in World War II was to make up for the inability of the private sector to produce enough jobs, we need the public sector to pump the money into the economy or create the jobs directly. So from that point on, from World War II on, the level of government spending jumped up a big notch. and it stayed high. It didn't stay at World War II highs. It came down a little bit, but it stayed much higher than ever before in American history. From the late 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it stayed up there. And the reason it stayed up there is because that's the only way you can have a capitalist full employment economy. So there were no, but from 29 or from 1937, basically till 2008, there weren't any really catastrophic crashes. There were recessions.
But these recessions result in the most astounding misery to millions of people. People don't have a place to live. They have nothing to eat.
But not for long.
Not for long. Tell somebody who doesn't have a job for 2 years.
No, that wasn't happening. People were not.
It's happening now. It's happening now.
No, it's happening now. What I'm saying, what happened now was a implosion of these financial assets. But also, what happened in the last several years is our government spending. Or government employees per capita actually has gone down. Government's gotten smaller, and so the gap between what government needs to be. Look, step back and look at this. You can't have a capitalist economy without a big government sector. By the way, the government sector in Germany is bigger than the United States. The tax rate in Germany is higher than the United States. They understand in Europe,
and they're not overwhelmed with unemployment and people. Yeah.
Matter of fact, what they do is when mass layoffs occur, they subsidize the workers to stay on the job so they don't lose their skills.
Wait, there's other things I want to talk about. We have to take a break, and if you just tuned in, you're listening to Les Leopold, and he'll tell you a bit more about himself when we come back. And I want to talk about Social Security, the fiscal cliff, theoretically, whatever that is, this budget committee, automatic cuts in spending. There's a few things to talk about. But here's my question based on everything you just said. It seems now, obviously, I don't understand much about this, which is why you're here. Everything you just told me seems to add up to one thing. Why don't we cut out the goddamn middlemen and just nationalize everything?
Well, you want me to talk about it now or when you come back?
When we come back, because this is the question. I mean, and I'm not just throwing this out lightly, because everything you've said seems to add up to why do we have a person who's prone to heart attacks every once in a while, or else has to lay in bed for a year because they can't walk around because their heart hurts? Why don't we just finally solve this problem and get rid of the bankers and get rid of everybody in the middle and get rid of all the rich people and just go straight to having the government run everything? And later, when we come back, we'll talk about this. All right? Okay. Les Leopold, we'll be back right after this break.
Alex Bennett on Sirius XM Left.
Woody Allen did a movie called Zelig about a guy known as the human chameleon. If he was in a room full of black people, he could suddenly be black. If he was in a room full of Chinese, he could become Chinese. And they said he was this way because he so wanted to be loved. So I call Romney the Zelig of politics. He's anything you want him to be in a given situation.
The Great American Broadcast. Alex Bennett. Mornings at 7 East, 4 West. On Sirius XM Left. 127.
Sample comes with a 90-day order. Copays and deductibles may apply. If you or someone you care for are using painful urinary catheters, Medical Direct Club can help. There is a new catheter that hurts less, and you can get a free sample by calling now. Pain and urinary tract infections can be avoided if you're using urinary catheters. The new disposable catheters from Medical Direct Club hurt less due to an incredible new design. It reduces pain and glides easily and effortlessly. Old catheters would scrape and cut, causing pain and infection. These catheters from Medical Direct Club cause less pain and are changing people's lives every day. Medicare and your insurance will pay for up to 200 of these new catheters per month at little or no cost to you. Medical Direct Club handles all of the paperwork with your doctor and includes lifetime free shipping when you join. Membership and samples are also free, so call Medical Direct Club now at 800-334-4408. That's 800-334-4408. End painful cathing today. Call 800-334-4408.
You have a mortgage and a load of other debt. Wouldn't it be great if it all just went away? 9-year mortgage can change your life.
We paid off all of our bills.
All your debt, including your mortgage, in as little as 9 years?
We will have saved over $300,000
$613,000 in interest payments.
Even have more money left over each month?
It lowered our monthly payments by a little over $500.
9-year mortgage.
Where have they been all of our life?
If you knew about something like that, you'd want to tell everybody.
Whenever I have a friend or someone that needs this service, I give them the number.
Hi, I'm Larry Ruff, president of 9-Year Mortgage. This is unlike anything you've ever seen before, and it will absolutely not harm your credit. Call for your free CD and learn how you can eliminate all of your debt, including your mortgage, much sooner than you ever dreamed possible. The more debt you have, the more we can help.
Call for your free CD now. 800-687-0868.
This works. Call the number.
Call now for your free CD. 800-687-0868. 800-687-0868.
This is Pete Dominick from SiriusXM's POTUS, the channel that takes you inside Washington. Join me for my electoral college tour. Next stop, the University of Virginia, on the night of the final presidential debate. I'll talk to the faculty and students about the issues that concern them.
I think the Republican platform is dangerous for women.
We're not talking about the war on men that the Democrats are waging. And hear a special student town hall forum moderated by Pete. We all get to weigh in. We all get to have our opinion heard. Pete Dominick's Electoral College Tour, Monday at 3 p.m. East, noon West on SiriusXM's POTUS, channel 124.
SiriusXM Left. We do not have the right to sit here and feel sorry for ourselves. Accountability. SiriusXM Left, 127.
All right. As far as I'm concerned, every American has the right to feel sorry for themselves. It's part of our founders' policies. All right. Les Leopold is with us, and single payer. Right. This is just talking about what this is a preamble to our discussion and to your answer. Single payer is something like 70% of the country really wants, but of course we don't have it, and we should have it. In other enlightened countries, they have this, right? So here's a government program, Medicare. A lot of doctors opt out. They don't participate in it. A lot of doctors want to be rich. In New York City, there's a lot of doctors who want anything to do with Medicare, right? However, single payer works in a lot of European countries very well. Their health is probably better than ours. Even in some countries not in Europe, it's better than ours. And that's a completely government-run program. They could dictate the price of drugs if they wanted to. They could dictate the price of what hospitals and doctors charge if they wanted to. It all sounds fine to me. Why don't we do energy that way, money that way, banks that way, everything that's essential to our lives? What's the problem?
Well, see, single payer isn't really entirely government-run. It's just government-financed. It eliminates the insurance companies, but the doctors are still, there's still doctors who run their own individual practices and hospitals. They're not publicly owned hospitals. They're not publicly owned.
Well,
it's not a national health service.
Well, why shouldn't that? Why shouldn't they be? Why shouldn't we do that?
National Health Service. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but let me go to your bigger question.
All right.
The overall. Why do you need any kind of free enterprise at all? Why can't the government do it?
Yeah.
Well, it could. In general, it's just too hard to do, and markets do allocate resources more efficiently than a command and control economy. You really do. What I think you really want to go for is the best combination of both.
Which would be what?
Well, which is a large public sector that makes sure there's never, ever high levels of unemployment, terrifically tough regulations that constantly break up the monopoly. See, what happens under capitalism is the big get bigger. And in finance, the combination of deregulation plus the tax cuts plus the big getting bigger created a situation where it became like a cancer on the economy. It's much too large for the size of the economy. It sucks up much too much wealth. And that needed to be dealt with over, we should have never deregulated them back in the 1970s. But so you need government to police the large corporations and to break them up when they get too big. Same thing goes with energy. But you could be encouraging, you could have a Manhattan Project, for example, on renewable energy, where you're going to throw, $20, $30, $50 billion a year into R&D. And it's okay to have a bunch of small companies trying to create, better batteries and this and that and the other. That's fine. It's okay to have a lot of small, privately owned businesses. That is a very efficient mix. Also, it gives you alternatives. See, right now, the lie that Governor Romney was talking about was, hey, the reason I want to do vouchers for Medicare is because then it gives me, if I don't like one insurance company, it gives me a choice.
Yeah.
Well, there really isn't competition amongst insurance companies in most places. There are 2 or 3 large ones. They all do the same. And, you get bounced from one. The other ones won't take either without jacking up the rates. I mean, that's why Medicare for All is great, because it eliminates these monopolistic insurance companies.
I guess I'm not understanding. If Medicare for All is better, which it clearly is in this country, it would be better. It's better in other countries. If it eliminates these monopolistic health insurance companies, and everybody who has ever dealt with a private health insurance company hates them. They make everybody's life miserable, and they charge these huge amounts of money. They raise deductibles, everything, right? It would be better if we didn't have any private health insurance companies,
right,
and we'd all be better.
It's not necessarily better that we don't have any private practitioners. That I'd have to do some more research.
But what would be the problem? In other words, is there a basic assumption here that people will not work hard to do their best at a decent job or one that they love if they're not going to make a lot of money?
There are a lot of hospital chains and clinics in the country, Kaiser, et cetera, Mayo Clinic, where people are on salary. And they wouldn't know the difference whether Mayo was paying them or whether it was being financed by the government.
But what about that question? I mean, is capitalism based on a profound, elemental human presumption that we're all going to work harder if we?
No, I don't think that's what it's about. I think there are certain functions in society that don't work well when you put them into a completely free enterprise capitalist.
Like
system.
what? Like what?
Like your fire department.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really want to sign up with an individual, each house sign up with their own private fire department? And then when your neighbor's house burns down and it's a shitty fire department, your house burns down?
What about when your economy burns down because the banks fuck up?
Yeah, but see, you got to deconstruct that. You got to take it sector by sector. I don't think it matters whether or not the local diner is owned or the local shop is public or private.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably a very good thing that there are a lot of different telecommunication companies creating products.
Competition.
I think it creates a lot of space for new things to happen.
Okay,
that's all good.
All right.
But there's certain. I'm not convinced that banking is one of those areas where the competition works. I'm not convinced it works in medicine. It certainly doesn't work in health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it works in public education either.
So you would analyze, sector by sector
we've
to
done
see.
It already. I mean, it's sort of happening willy-nilly. We're only fighting about stuff at the edges. I think we've come to a pretty strong national consensus that your police and fire department ought not to be private enterprise.
Well, what about prisons, for instance?
I think that's one of the ones we're fighting about.
And then schools,
for the voucher thing. But it's around the edges. I think people aren't quite ready to throw away the entire public education system. But yes, there are fights around the edges.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't completely privatized the military yet. For example, we haven't we're not saying we should have 1,000 different nuclear missile companies. Or 7 different navies competing against each other. We've made certain decisions already for the common good over a long period of time. We're fighting over some critical ones. We're fighting over healthcare financing right now. We're not fighting over healthcare per se, but we're over financing.
Mm-hmm.
We're fighting over on the edge around vouchers in schools. We're fighting over. I don't think it's much of a fight, but there was fighting over Social Security, or whether or not we should, instead of having
privatizing,
let Wall Street get its hooks into the money. So we already have a mixed economy. The problem I see is our mix is still tilted too much to the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot to learn from Europe. We'll never learn from Europe, however, until we get over the idea. We have to first get over the idea that America, by definition, is an exceptional country, the best and the greatest in the entire world.
Such a
and
tiresome
no matter what
thing.
we do, we are the best.
Ugh.
And until we get over that, we'll never learn from anybody else. We have a lot to learn.
Well, it goes that way in anybody's personal life. I mean,
You would think.
I mean, people. I mean, I never actually thought I was, exceptional or the best in maybe certain ways, but not in positive ways necessarily. But until you get over that, I'm just saying, in anybody's individual life, and anybody who's listening to me now understands that. Maybe you've gone through things yourself. Unless you get over the idea that there's something special about you, there's some sort of grandiose conception of yourself, then you can't live a decent life. You can't relate to people. You can't cooperate with other people, and you can't even be the best person you can be. So, but the country's stuck in this kind of teenage grandiosity.
Right, and as a result, we're not even open to listening. Like, for example, if you talk to people in France and in England and in Germany about how their healthcare system works, you would actually learn something, right? You would learn, wow, or talk to the doctors. We say, the doctors aren't going to treat us because we're not going to if they had to work for the government. Well, that's not the case in England. But it requires listening and talking to people who and stop with this idea of as soon as someone throws the word socialism, we run. There are no socialistic countries in the world anymore. Maybe outside of North Korea and maybe Cuba. That's it. None of the European countries are socialistic. They're all capitalists. They just have a mix, and their mix is more robust in defense of the things that help the average person. That's the thing that goes on in Europe. They first think about helping the average person. Then they try to get the elites to be more cooperative, and they don't let the income gap get so wild.
Let us. It's not like we're shifting anything. We're just moving on to a different. There's all this discussion back and forth about Medicare and Social Security, on the verge of or within a couple of decades being bankrupt. Can you clear that up?
Well, there's no problem in Social Security. The reason there could be a problem in Social Security is one. Or get it all out again. You lift the cap, and there's no problem. Matter of fact, there's surpluses.
So if somebody made $500,000 and there was no cap, they would be paying much more in Social Security tax.
Well, yeah, they would. You could even have it go down gradually, or just raise it to $150,000.
But that is based on the concept of the common good.
Well, yeah, and the reason it's the common good is you don't want a bunch of poor old people, running around. Social Security is not that. It's not going to make you rich. But we put it in place because there were a lot of old people that were starving or in bad shape back in the 30s, and it was a good idea then.
But if I'm Romney and I'm a Republican or I'm Ryan or one of these people, I say, well, you know what? Forget about the fact that somebody was born rich. Let's take somebody who's not Romney. That's a different business. Somebody who worked hard all their life. They're a Republican. They started from nothing. They built up their own business. They have a tractor dealership. Then they have 2. Then they have 3. Then they have a big company. Whatever it is, and they put aside money that they work hard for because they know that when they get old, they're going to need this money. Why shouldn't everybody do that?
Everybody does it when they can afford to do it.
I'm just asking this question. That's all.
No, people look. If you could save money, you do. People aren't stupid,
right?
But Social Security is designed. It's a pension program for everybody. It's a defined benefit pension program.
But it's a program that the government makes you participate in.
Yeah, well, it's a smart thing.
And that's for the common good, though.
Yeah. Well, look, I think everybody, except for these right-wing ideologues, people are a pretty healthy mix of being communitarian for the common good and protecting their own interests. Human beings have been like that for, I think, a long time, and it's a question of what the balance is. And I think we're out of balance right now. People are saying it's all, Ayn Rand, it's all dog eat dog, social Darwinism. Well, I don't think it works. I think that's what took down the economy. We let the Wall Street do dog eat dog, and they ate us.
Well, Well, the original concept for, aside from the moral concept, the idea of Social Security and Medicare was just based on population figures. There weren't that many older people in relation to the population. There's I had a guy on who was an expert on Social Security and statistics and, everything. He said nobody ever thought when they first did pass Social Security laws, or even when they did Medicare, that there would be so many older people who would be pulling on these funds.
So
and
legalize the 12 million immigrants. Legalize the 12 million immigrants who are mostly young, right? And you don't and have them pay Social Security, and you don't have a problem.
And then lift that cap.
Yeah, lift the cap. Then there's no problem. On Medicare, it's the problem of the lack of single payer, and therefore you have no control over rising health care costs.
I see.
You move to single payer, there's no Medicare problem. You have Medicare for all. There's no Medicare problem.
Do you mind taking one or two calls?
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay, we have time for a couple of calls. I don't have the screen on here, so who should we go to? Bob. Joe, you're on, Joe. You there, Joe?
You guys been talking about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I just want to know what makes you think that the government can regulate anything efficiently.
Les?
Well, something has to regulate something, right? We've just gone through a 30-year experiment of deregulation in the private sector, and the whole thing blew up. So you don't have a choice. The free market will not regulate everything efficiently. It just doesn't do it.
So is there a sector that the government regulates efficiently and competently?
It does a pretty good job on the smaller banks, I got to say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't see them falling. I don't see anybody losing their bank accounts even during this crisis.
What about like Medicare, for instance?
Not too bad either. Not too shabby. Your driver's license gets. Cars are regulated reasonably well. Car insurance is regulated reasonably well. Mm-hmm. Insurance in general, home insurance is regulated well. Just think if you didn't have regulation on home insurance, you could have a company that takes everybody's premiums, doesn't have to set aside any reserves, and then walks away when your house burns down.
Okay, caller, go ahead, caller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to me, Clinton did away with Glass-Steagall with the Republicans, pushing that.
Mm-hmm.
Then Bush came through, and he put in Sarbox, which added tremendous amounts of regulation to the banking system. Now, we added these 12, how many thousands of pages of regulations to the banking system, and it's still screwed up.
Well, we got to do the basics. The basics is,
and you're actually right. But why do the basics? Well, first, regulating banks should not be 1,200 pages.
Yeah. Well, the reason it's 1,200 pages is every banker, lobbyist in the country is involved in trying to make sure the law doesn't work. So they're throwing in constant exceptions, trying to get their own Congress people, senators, to do their bidding. But if you did the simple thing, you say, look, okay, Glass-Steagall goes back, boom, and you break up those big banks. No bank can be more than 10%. Assets of the entire GDP. Boom. The larger banks have to divest. You can do that. It's when you start doing this, putting all these little exceptions in that the bankers want in. That's what's going on now. That's why these bills get so large and so complicated.
So it's not necessarily that the government can't be competently regulating things. It's because people are interfering with their ability to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if we let money rule politics, which we've decided seems to be a civil right, that corporations should be able to influence politics, we let them lobby with as much money as they can and give as many campaign contributions as they want to, you're going to get garbage in terms of regulations on them.
Let's take one more quick call.
Sure.
Who do we have? Scott, you're on.
Hey guys, I was listening to you talk, and it popped into my head that when Justice Roberts made his decision on Obamacare, that it was a tax, people said he was either the most brilliant jurist around or the biggest idiot around. But when you think about it, Social Security and Medicare are what?
Taxes,
They're
you're right.
taxes.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point.
The only difference is Obamacare is not yet coming out of one's paycheck on a regular basis.
Right. Look,
I just should tell you there's only like a couple of minutes left, so let's go ahead and answer that. Now
I think callers, Scott's right on the money.
Okay.
But I think what Roberts was about is he just the idea of blowing up another. First they put in Bush over Gore, and they're going to knock out the biggest healthcare reform thing that's ever passed since Medicare. I think he thought that just shouldn't be what the Supreme Court does. It's going to wreck the credibility of the Supreme Court. I think that's what he's protecting, as well as his own legacy. But the call is right. It's not such a stretch to say it's a tax. But the name of the game, though, I think my message for everybody today is: we live in a mixed economy. If you think the economy can run without government, I've got a bridge to sell you. You have to have a mixed economy. A modern capitalist economy requires having government involved. They're codependent. And so the balance is out of whack now. We actually need more government, not less government, more government jobs, not fewer.
Okay. One last comment here. We only got like a minute left. I was just running some figures fooling around on the Internet. I noticed that in 1966, Mickey Mantle was making $100,000 a year. He was the highest paid baseball player in the country. He was making 15 times the average American salary. Now, our Alex Rodriguez, Mr. Strikeout King, gets paid 500 times the average salary. Something has gone wrong in our American soul here. We only have about a minute left, but I'm just pointing this out.
No, look. What happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the relationship between rising productivity and the average wage got severed through deregulation, tax cuts, and tax cuts for the rich and deregulation, basically, and the crushing of unions. By the way, the biggest regulation in the country that they went after were unions. That's a regulation, not environmental regulations. It's a union that are regulations. When they crushed the ability of working people to raise their incomes, you had a huge amount of money that wasn't going to the average working person anymore. It went to the top, and that's why corporate CEOs compensation rose from 40 in 1970 to 1,725 to 1 by 2006. That's how you can have a hedge fund guy make $2.4 million an hour. Where's all that money come from? It comes from the wealth that gets produced by the average working person that no longer gets their compensation no longer rose with productivity, and that's the story.
We have to wind up. We're just literally at the end. Okay, so
do it again.
Anybody who wants to get some really good information, clear information on economic issues, go to Alternet and look up Les Leopold. Just put in search Les Leopold. Check the last couple of articles. Check the current articles. You'll find out what's really going on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We will talk again.
Okay, great. Take care.
All right, that's it for this hour. After 7 o'clock, we'll take your calls, but first we'll hear from some workers at Walmart and Sensata Industries, where Bain Capital is putting people out of work and shipping their jobs to China.
Media Matters Radio on Sirius XM Left.
Fox News chief national correspondent Jim Engel also dismissed the fact that women are paid less than men as not a national problem.
But we're not implying that Fox News is running some sort of war on women or anything. They're not actively working against women.
We're just reporting and letting you decide.
Media Matters Radio. Saturdays at 10 a.m. East and Sundays at 4 p.m. East on Sirius XM Left 127.
Ladies, how many pounds have you gained since you turned 40? If you're like most women, probably 10 or more. But hundreds of thousands of women have discovered the secret to losing weight after 40. It's called Amberen, and it's the only product on the market today clinically proven to cause sustained weight loss for women over 40. With no special diets or exercise programs, you can try Amberen absolutely risk-free and get a 1-month supply free by calling 1-800-989-0129. The leading cause of weight gain in women over 40 is hormonal imbalance. Until you balance your hormones, losing weight can be practically impossible. Amberen balances hormones naturally, so the extra weight can fall right off. Yes, even that stubborn tummy fat. Plus, Amberen relieves other symptoms of hormonal imbalance, like hot flashes, night sweats, low libido, sleeplessness, and more. Be one of the first 50 callers right now, and they'll send you a complimentary, risk-free trial with a 30-day supply free. Free supplies are limited, so call now. 1-800-989-0129. That's 1-800-989-0129.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
University.
Ready to take your education to the next level? Arizona State University offers over 20 bachelor degree programs you can earn 100% online. Enroll today and experience quality without compromise. Through ASU's online program, you'll earn the exact same degree on-campus students earn, but with all the flexibility offered by our state-of-the-art online learning technology. Get the same world-renowned faculty, same great quality, and same worldwide recognition. Now's the time. ASU Online is the place. Call 855-JOIN-ASU. That's 855-JOIN-ASU.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chuck Woolery. After putting a few thousand couples together on Love Connection, you know that nothing kills romance faster than bad breath. Smart Mouth gets at the cause of bad breath without the burn, and you get clean breath for about 12 hours. Other mouthwashes only prevent bad breath for about an hour. Gum and mints, well, they just cover it up. Use Smart Mouth in the morning for great breath all day. Rinse in the evening for clean, kissable breath all night. You can even wake up without morning breath. Smart Mouth, for 12 hours of real clean breath, look for the green box at your favorite store.
Sirius XM.
Scream, scary stories, music and sounds. Scream is the soundtrack of your Halloween. Experience the most horrifying haunted houses and creations from celebrity guests like the cast from The Walking Dead and Larry the Cable Guy. Sirius XM Scream is on now, on demand, online, and on Sirius 123, XM 142.
Sirius XM Left.
As our young people get older, they don't want to see this kind of politics anymore.
Real political thought. Sirius XM Left. 127.
AP Radio News. I'm Carolina Bradley. President Barack Obama and Mitt Romney are prepping for their final debate on Monday, so their running mates are campaigning. Vice President Joe Biden told a group in St. Augustine, and GOP running mate Paul Ryan have a position on women's health rights that's very different from the administration.
It was made very clear that they don't believe a woman has a right to control her own body. Romney and Ryan have made it very clear that they're willing to impose their private views on the public.
In Moon Township, Pennsylvania, Ryan told a rally that in addition to creating jobs in the U.S., the Republican economic plan would open global markets for the things those workers make, like Pennsylvania steel.
We also have to make sure that we open up markets so we can make more things in America and sell them overseas. Make sure that people trade fairly with us, open our markets so we can make more things in steel country and sell them all around the world.
A tour bus crash in Arizona has left one person dead and dozens of others hurt.
Authorities say that it happened last night near Willow Beach, Arizona, about 20 miles from the Nevada state line and 40 miles southeast of Las Vegas. The Arizona Highway Patrol says the bus apparently just went off the road and into a ravine. It then appears to have traveled up an embankment, heavily damaging the front part of the vehicle. There weren't any other vehicles involved. Officials say that they think the driver may have had some kind of a medical condition, but officers are still working on the details. I'm Shirley Smith.
A man purported to be Muammar Gaddafi's former spokesman has issued an audio recording denying that he's been captured and says he's not even in Libya. The recording posted on Musa Ibrahim's Facebook page dismissed government claims that he was detained outside the Libyan city of Bani Walid. The audio recording could not be immediately verified. This is AP Radio News. In college football this hour, number 4 Kansas State goes up against number 17 West Virginia. Kansas State coach Bill Snyder says WVU quarterback Geno Smith is a tremendous player.
For Geno Smith to, have all those numbers that he has, those gaudy numbers, and no interceptions to go along with it, and the no interceptions, a great tribute to his decision-making.
West Virginia's coach says it's never easy playing a team coached by Snyder.
This will be our biggest challenge of the year without question. They're very tough. They're a physical group. They're extremely disciplined, and it doesn't matter if it's offense or if it's defense or if it's special teams. Their whole program is built around being tough.
Japanese automaker Nissan Motor Company says it will add a third shift at a vehicle assembly plant in Tennessee. The expansion will add more than 800 jobs. I'm Carlotta Bradley, AP Radio News.
Okay, this is Mike Fader. We're back again, and obviously when you watch the debates, you saw a lot of arguing, and there's constant discussion about outsourcing jobs and shipping jobs overseas, and we've got to have American jobs. And Mitt Romney is the one who usually talks about this the loudest, where he's going to create 6 million jobs. He wants to keep jobs here. Meanwhile, over the last several weeks, over the last couple of months, actually, and just the other day, a lot of activity has been going on in a place called Freeport, Illinois, and this is just the other day. This morning, 6 community supporters were arrested during a sit-in at a company called Sensata, a facility in Freeport, Illinois. The community members were occupying the plant's lobby in protest of Bain Capital's decision to outsource 170 American jobs from its profitable Sensata plant in Freeport to China. And we have with us somebody who knows about this because she lives there, and her daughter is one of the supporters who was arrested last week, blocking the transfer of equipment. This whole plant is being. Oh, we don't have her on the line yet? Okay, we're waiting for her to call. We're going to have somebody on the line, we hope, whose daughter was one of the people who was arrested there. The community piled into this. And this is a group of people who are in a plant in Freeport, Illinois. It's an automotive parts supply plant, part of the automotive industry. And these people, for the last 35 or 40 years, I don't know how long this plant's been in business, but some of these people who lost their jobs recently, 170 people laid off. These are people who were making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, hard-working people at a plant that actually make something, not like people in a stockbroker firm or somebody who is moving paper around, whatever that means. These are people who actually make things that people can use that are useful. And they were laid off, and this plant was shipped piece by piece to China. And not only that, and Bain Capital owned this plant. Not only that, and Romney makes money from this. You know, whether or not he was involved in the original decision to do this, this was a couple of years ago. He was probably not in Bain at the time. We're not running things. But he makes money. Part of the $20 million that this slimy bastard pays, less than 14% of taxes on, is money that is still paid to him by profits he gets from Bain Capital. So so when he says, I'm not involved in that decision, I haven't been there for a while, this is all another one of his slimy lies, because in fact he still receives a tremendous amount of hardly taxed at all profit from the same company that is making these decisions. And probably a lot of them are decisions that, after all, he practically, sort of founded that place along with Bill Bain, I think the guy's name was, and he created their business model, which is basically buy up companies, not with your own money, borrow money, buy up companies so you don't have anything at risk yourself, load the company up with debt. If they make a profit, good. If they don't, sell it off. If they make a profit, sell it off. If you have to lay off everybody because it didn't work, too bad. They have laid off thousands and thousands and thousands of people, made people miserable. And so this is what's happened in Freeport, Illinois. Basically, we have a company where people, and I spoke to one of the workers, it was a couple of weeks ago in a different place. Guy's making something like $50,000-$60,000 a year, getting health insurance for his family, right, supporting his family. He's been working there for close to 35 years. He's in his mid-50s. He worked there right after high school, basically. A couple of years after high school, worked there for all this time. This is a company that's making a profit. Bain decided it wasn't making enough of a profit. They weren't getting enough back on their money. It wasn't even their money, but they weren't making enough money. So they, this was originally, I think, was a subdivision of Honeywell Industries. What they did was they decided to sell it basically to the Chinese government or to some Chinese, sort of semi-governmental corporation over there, because the workers were cheaper, right? And they would get a bigger profit from it. So they had the workers at this plant train Chinese workers. And when the Chinese workers flew here, this was several months ago, I forget when it was, or a year ago, they put a Chinese flag. This is in Freeport, Illinois. They flew a Chinese flag over the factory to welcome the Chinese workers. And it's all very nice, right? Think about it all, though. And they had these people who were they going to lay off, and this is, I think, in the last several months, train these workers to do their jobs they're going to be laid off from. Then they laid them off. And finally, people signed a petition. They appealed to Romney to do something about this because he's, after all, talking about he's going to keep American jobs here. They're both liars. They're both corporate stooges, these two candidates, right? But Romney really is worse. I have to admit it. I mean, this guy is a liar, on a scale of Mount Rushmore. When it comes to the Olympics of lying, if they had a gold medal for lying, this guy would be right in the running for it. He is really something. And it's not as if he's the kind of liar. I mean, there are people who lie and people who lie. Some people lie, you can't even call it a lie because they don't even know the difference. They're actually crazy or they're just sort of psychopathic in a way. They'll just do whatever it is they have to do. I believe that when Mitt Romney says things to people, I mean, his biggest driving force is wherever he is, he's going to say what he needs to do to get what he wants. So it is sort of psychopathic. He's like a con man. He's like a serial killer. He smiles and smiles and smiles until somebody gets in a car with him, right? This guy will say whatever he needs to say, which explains, of course, why on one stage he'll say one thing, which is completely opposite than another place. 1 month he'll say one thing, next week he'll say something different. But I think he actually knows that he's being dishonest, and it doesn't make any difference to him. This man has no sense of morality when it comes to anybody outside his family circle. People are complicated. People are complicated. I once read a book by a daughter of a very famous, very vicious, crazy mafia killer chief of a mafia family in New York City. And she and her brother, especially she was daddy's little girl, wrote about this wonderful home. He was the greatest father in the world. He would play ball in the backyard, toss a ball back and forth. He helped shop for her clothes with her mother, when she was going to go on her first date. Blah, 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 blah. You hear this all the time. So Mr. Romney was very good to his children, and he's been very good to his wife and gave lots of money to the Mormon church. And once somebody was feeling bad and he helped them out, or whatever it is he said on stage. But meanwhile, he is still capable of destroying the lives of millions and millions and millions of people, and in his own personal life, with Bain Capital, destroying people's lives in every other possible way. All right, I don't know if our guest is going to call or not. We're waiting for her to call in. Presumably, or hopefully at around 7:20, in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to have some people call up Walmart's, which has, I think, approximately 2 million employees, which is the largest employer in the world, and, puts their thumb down over everybody. Working conditions atrocious, pay atrocious, keeping people at less than full time so they don't have to pay health insurance. And, of course, the Walton family, there's like 4 or 5 of these people, are among the 10 or 20 richest people in the world, just the one family, right? And how does that work? By keeping everybody who works for them very, very, very poor and fucking them over. And some of the Walmart people recently have started once again. They tried this a couple of times before, but there's been a walkout in a few stores. It's coming up. It's going to be, the Christmas season. And there will be millions of people going into Walmarts to make the Walton people even richer than they are now, the Walton family. And if a lot of the workers could get together, the whole point is to try to form a national union or a national organization where they put enough pressure on the people who own Walmart to get them to treat people decently, to give them enough benefits to live a decent life, and to pay them enough to basically to live on. So we're going to try to have some people on here in about 10 or 15 minutes if we connect with them. Doesn't look like we're going to have our Freeport, Illinois lady come on, so we might have to skip that for this week, and she can come on another time. If we've got some callers on the line, or if you want to call up, we have some free time right now to discuss this whole issue of basically we were talking about the economy before, and people had opinions. I don't think I left enough room for calls, and we were talking about the idea of voting for Obama and congressional Democrats, as horrible as that is in many ways, all things considered, if you live in a swing state, because you really don't want Romney and Ryan and those people. I mean, they really are crazy, and they really will throw us into World War III, and they really hate women. So really it does make a difference, I suppose. If you don't live in a swing state, I don't live in a swing state, then you can vote and do the decent thing and vote for a real politician who will actually represent you and who believes in what you believe in, i.e. Jill Stein. You might want to vote for Paul Johnson. I don't know. I invited the Libertarian candidate on here, but I haven't heard back from his press secretary yet. So I'm hoping I can get Paul Johnson to come on and give you his opinion, too. Since they're frozen out of the debates illegally, they should have a right to express their opinion. Jill Stein will be on next week. So can you give me a call? David from Georgia, you're on.
Hi, Mike. I listen to a lot of
talk radio, and I listen a lot to left-wing radio because I always want to know what the other side's thinking and saying. And I mean, the trend that I seem to find with left-wing radio and left-wing thinking in this country is that somehow private citizens who own private businesses and run private businesses, or even if they're small or really large, somehow they somehow owe somebody else something. And you talk about the really, really low wages and all that stuff.
I think actually, let me just interject for a second. This conversation, if you heard it the last hour with Les Leopold, I almost always talk about, when I talk about business or corporations, I talk about large national or international global corporations who don't pay their taxes, who cheat their workers, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think I've ever unloaded on a small business in my life.
Well, but what is cheating? How do you cheat a worker, though? Mike, can you be a bit more specific about?
Okay, let's say you're the vice president for I don't know, marketing and development. You make $1 million a year, and you have stock options, and your company's making a big profit. You pay your worker $9 an hour, and you don't give them health insurance. How's that?
Because labor is a commodity just like anything else, and if I can get somebody to show up to work for $9 an hour, and I don't have to pay them health insurance, then why would I?
Because you're a human being and you want to help other people?
Well, but I'm a human being and I help other people when I can, when I have extra money.
Well, if you had $1 million and somebody else is making $9 or $8 an hour, like they do in Walmart, and you're, let's say, Sam, whatever it is, Bob Walton, whatever his name is,
right,
and you make $40 million, and you have $40 billion, and you get an income of $500 million a year, and you pay your workers $8 an hour, you don't think that's wrong?
No, I don't. I think.
Well, then you and I will just have to agree to disagree on the way we see our relationship to other human beings.
Well, Mike, when do you pay more for something than you're asked? Like when somebody comes to, if you say you hire some people to come and cut your grass, or they offer to cut your grass for $30, when do you offer them $50? Do you offer $50 if they only want to charge you $30?
A lot of times people come around and sometimes in New York City, it's a crazy place, but people get a lot of food delivered to them, right? It's complicated as to why, but a lot of people get food delivered to them. People show up and we order food. Sometimes it's easier or better if we have busy lives, or it's hard, you go to a supermarket, whatever it is. And you have there's a place in New York called, for instance, Fresh Direct, and it delivers food directly to your door instead of go shopping for it. Okay, so the guy comes, he's getting paid like $6, $7 an hour. I am going to give him a lot of extra money, more than he would get on a usual tip, because I know how little he makes. That's what I would do.
And I do too.
But why would you do that if you don't have to? Why would you give him extra money?
Because if that's, I think that's a little bit different. I mean, like if I go to have brakes put on my car, I've got to get brakes done on the 29th of this month, and I know exactly how much it's going to cost. It's going to be $340. Why would I wouldn't pay $400 if they're only going to charge me $340.
But earlier I posed this question. I said, let's say you're working, and this happens all over the place. You're a CEO of a business, right? Let's say you're the CEO of Citibank, and you make like $50 million a year with stock options and salaries and everything else, and a teller makes $12 an hour. But you're saying if that's what you can get somebody to do, or you could get it to make $10, or you get to pay them $10 an hour, that's what you do. It doesn't matter to you, I guess, that they have to scrape by and have nothing extra, can hardly pay their rent, and have to barely get by on their food. It doesn't matter to you?
No, because I've scraped and I've gotten by, and I've never asked somebody to give me something that I haven't earned.
Yeah, so what? You didn't ask, but meanwhile, wouldn't you like to give something to somebody if you had a lot of extra money?
Well, I do. I give to Feed the Children. I give to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital.
Well, that's all I'm talking about. I mean, one of the reasons why there have to be charities is because large corporations and CEOs don't pay a decent wage. That's why there are charities.
Well, come on. Well, so what do you want? You want the government to step in and tell a corporation how much they have to pay their workers?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, but see, that's wrong. I don't think the government has the right, or it's not the government.
I do. The government represents the people of the United States, and I think we should all understand that we're in the same boat together, and if somebody else is suffering and I have a lot, I should give them money.
Well, but okay, so I guess you feel that, people like Warren Buffett should pay more income tax.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, please answer this question for me, Mike, because I can't get one liberal to answer this very, very simple question, okay? When you talk about some of the wealthy people, the really, really wealthy people out there that support Obama, and Obama believes that more taxes on the wealthy is a good thing. Why?
Actually, wait. I don't think he really does.
Okay, but why does Warren Buffett have to wait for the income tax rate to be increased. Why can't he just cut a big fat check to the government? If that's the smart thing and the moral and right thing for the wealthy to do with their money is to give it to the government, why doesn't he do that? He can live on $22 billion.
Well, that's a very easy thing to answer, and in answering it, I'll base it on your moral outlook. The reason
not on my moral outlook.
Well, you just said that if you could get somebody in there, I said if you could get somebody, you made $1 million, and you could get somebody for $8, why would you bother to give them more? You're asking me a question. I'm gonna give you the answer. The reason you can't wait for them to do it is because they're exactly the kind of people who don't care what happened to other people, and they don't mind being rich while other people are poor. So you have to make them do it.
So you could put John Kerry in that boat. John Kerry's worth
absolutely.
But you liberals never really want to give any shit to people like that.
Are you kidding? Did you ever listen to this program?
I'm sorry, Mike. With all due respect, sir, no, I have not.
All right, then. I'm glad you told me that you did not, because if you listen to me on a regular basis, you would hear me go after everybody who's in this category, including Nancy Pelosi, John Kerry, and half the Democrats in Congress. All right, I'm serious about what I'm saying.
Okay, well, and I respect you for that. I respect you for that, and I respect you for being honest, because I don't understand why these people who call themselves liberals, like John Kerry, who owns 4 homes at least, talks about how the Bush tax cuts were bad because it gave tax cuts to millionaires. He is a millionaire.
Well, you won't get any argument from me on this. Anybody who's got so much money absolutely owes it to people who have so little.
I don't think we do, Mike. I really don't.
We disagree. Disagree.
You're on a moral. It's like you're on a moral crusade, and the moral.
And you're on an immoral crusade.
No, I don't think I'm in an immoral crusade.
Absolutely. You don't mind. You don't care what happens to other people.
Mike, come on. Of course I care about what happens to other people, but I don't think that it's the government's job to step in and tell me.
Well, if nobody else is going to do it, then who's going to make them do it?
Well, who says that anybody has the right to make me do it?
I just said it.
No, I don't think so, Mike. If I start a business and I make a better life for myself and I make a better life for my family, the government doesn't have the right.
And it doesn't look if you had a business, like for instance, do you remember? I don't know. You're not that old, but for instance, you will know this maybe from studying history. I'm not being. I'm just saying. You literally. How old are you? You're not 67, are you?
No, sir. I'm 41.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So you probably didn't live through this, but you probably know it from history. In California, you know who Cesar Chavez is, right? Yes, no?
Yeah, vaguely, yes, I do.
Okay, so Cesar Chavez.
He was an advocate for farm workers.
Right. Now, farm workers were doing back-breaking, insanely difficult work. I mean, it was wrecking their health, right? It's really hard work, bending down, picking all this stuff, right? And they were getting paid $4, $3 an hour. They could hardly live. Their families were practically starving. And they worked 60, 70 hours a week. And the people the growers who own these gigantic farms, who had tens of millions of dollars, refused to give them even a penny raise. And what happened was that he appealed to the government to help pass fair labor practices, and then he appealed to the huge mass of American people, just regular American people, to boycott several products, one of which was grapes. And it actually worked because most American people understood that was really evil. It was really wrong. And you're saying it's not?
I don't think it is, because if I own a business and I can get people to come and work my farm for $6 an hour, I don't see any reason why I should pay them $12.
And you know that $6 an hour is probably not enough to hardly even feed their family from one end of the week to the next. You're still going to do it.
If I can get them to show up for work for it, yeah. I mean, all
right. You know what? I actually sort of don't want to talk to you anymore. I mean, your point of view is really. It makes me disgusted to talk to somebody like you. It really does.
It kind of disgusts me that people like you think it's okay to take from those who have and give handouts.
Okay, so I'll tell you what. From now on, we could agree that you could listen to another show because you're not going to
listen to you because you're very entertaining. have a good day, Mike.
Well, that's something. Oh man, and for that, I get paid $3 an hour. You know. That's another story. All right, so do we have our guest on yet? We're working on it. Okay. So can we put another call on? Can you hit another call, or is that... Yeah? Yes? No? Okay, Scott, you're on. You there, Scott?
Yeah. Sorry, Mike, I didn't hear you name my name.
That's all right.
The only thing I'd say to him is I don't agree with him, but... All right, the government shouldn't tell him what to pay his workers. But he and his ilk shouldn't have the right to buy politicians and have right-to-work laws passed and anti-union laws passed, and then the only rule the government should make nationwide is unions are legal and mandatory. That way, he can be in business, but all them $9 an hour workers can stand together and tell him, fuck you, you greedy cocksucker, we ain't working for you. And then he would have to pay a fair and living wage. But they don't want to do that, right?
So that's a good point. See, they want everything. They want to get it coming and going. They want to have to be able to pay. They want to pay as little as possible. And then when people organize, they want to make unions illegal. So they want to screw you both directions.
They want slave labor. But that's
what they want. Yeah. Go ahead.
But here's what I called for, to ask you, but I know you have a couple Canadian listeners that listen on a regular basis.
Yep.
Has anybody listened besides me and hear how Mitt Romney says North America will be energy free? So what I'm trying to say, you Canadians, he's including you in our business. Therefore, Canada, I don't think Canada has nukes. So Canada, I would be very, very afraid, because now our president includes your natural resources when he's selling his bullshit to the American public. And Canada, if the American public needs our fix for oil, guess where we'll come and who we will take over to be our 60th state. From 50 to 60, we'll divide you up in 10.
Well, I mean, you got a point there. But on the other hand, being a businessman, Mr. Bain there, Mr. Romney, he doesn't really have to take the country over militarily, because, in fact, the government of Canada is even worse than we are with environmental activists, and they are more dedicated to their oil business than even we are. So there's no problem there,
No, I just thought I'd point that out.
No, it's good.
The other day, he even stumbled. He said the United States would be energy free, and then he corrected himself. He said North America.
Well, I'm sure that he would like to acquire Canada for a low price, and then
I think so.
And maybe he would like to outsource Canada to the Chinese. I don't know.
Well,
all right.
I don't know, but no, that guy that you just got talking to, I don't know. That's why I'm not a Republican.
I mean, really, he just didn't seem to understand what was wrong with what he was saying, which is it's almost inconceivable to me. In the end, I had to tell him that he makes me sick. So, do we have one of our guests on? Okay, Scott.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks. All right, who do we have on? Yeah, we have Dominic Ware on. Oh, you too. So, Kate, are you on, Kate?
Yes, Kate is on.
Okay, and Dominic, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there's been, it's hard for me to go into this background, and that's why I have my two guests on today, who basically people who work for Walmart. And Walmart, as most of you know, and as I've explained earlier, is the largest employer in the world, and they are fairly well known for being pretty bad to their workers. We have two people who actually work for Walmart. I think one of you works in the retail branch and the other in the warehouse, or am I wrong about that?
Actually, I work in the customer service. I'm a cart associate, so I'll be outside.
Okay, outside.
And I'm a cashier within the store.
Okay, now there's an organization called Our Walmart. What is Our Walmart?
Our Walmart is the Organization United for Respect at Walmart. It's a group of associates from all across the United States, as well as support outside of the United States from other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all gathered together and decided that enough is enough, and Walmart needs to treat their employees better, and if no one speaks up, then no one's going to be heard. So we've all come together as one voice.
Dominic, are you part of this too?
Yes, sir. Proud member.
And I guess at this point you don't really have a whole lot of people together, right? Or you're working on it, right?
Oh, we have a whole lot. We have more than expected. After
just being around for 2 years already, you have a lot of members, and every day we grow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, slowly but surely we're growing.
So there's never been a union at Walmart, right?
No, sir, not in not in our country. No.
Oh, really? Is there a Walmart in other countries? Rather, a union in other countries for Walmart?
Yes, actually, outside of the United States, every Walmart is unionized.
Really? No kidding. And
Yeah.
so, Kate. Oh, by the way, where are you? Where do you work for Walmart? Where are you?
I work in Searcy, Arkansas, which is about 4 hours from the company headquarters.
That's Bentonville, is it?
Yes.
Okay. And Dominic, where do you work?
I work in San Leandro,
And which is
out in the Bay Area, and I'm a card associate. Courtesy associate.
What is it? What is a card associate?
Actually, I'm the first and last person that you see when you come to Walmart.
Uh-huh.
I help you get the groceries to your car and from your car. So,
Okay. And
whatever the customer needs me to do, I'm here to help.
Okay. And Kate, what is your position there?
I'm a cashier within the store. I check out everybody that comes through.
Okay. And so, Dominic, first, what do you get paid per hour?
Right now, I'm at $8.25 an hour.
How long you been there?
Part time, almost a year.
So that's a part-time job. And Kate,
Yes,
what do you?
sir.
Kate, what do you earn?
I'm part time as well, and I make $7.95 an hour. And I've been at the store I'm at currently for a year and a half, but altogether I've been with Walmart for almost 2.5 years now.
So did they give you? Let's say Dominic first, and then Kate. I don't know. Do they give you periodic raises?
Every 6 months, depends on how your evaluation goes. You get a 25-cent raise.
25 cents.
Once again,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
But once again, it depends on how good you did on your evaluation.
What about Kate? Do you get? And then Dominic, you could come in afterwards. Do you get health insurance?
I do have health insurance, but hitting on the raises,
Yeah.
That varies by store. In my store, you never get more than a 20-cent raise. And at my last evaluation, I had a customer service manager give me my evaluation, and they're not even supposed to do it. It has to be a salaried member of management.
Mm-hmm.
And because I made more than her, she decided to scratch out on the paper in front of me the raise that I was supposed to be getting. So I still yet to get a raise at Walmart.
So, but you do get health insurance. Dominic, do you have health insurance?
No, sir, I do not have health insurance.
Is that because you're part-time?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So what's the deal? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I'll say the promise is after a year of hard work, I will be moved up to full-time. Well, actually, it was 6 months, but now it's a year for some reason. And now I have to wait a year to see if I even qualify to become full-time and get the benefits.
Well, there's a lot of companies these days, it's not just Walmart, but a lot of companies keep people at a part-time level so they don't have to pay health insurance. Does that happen a lot in Walmart or not?
All the time.
It does, really? Yeah.
Yes. They play with your hours. They give you 40 hours for like 2 months straight, and they'll drop it down to 22. 22, 18. Last week, I just talked to one of my associates. They said they worked 6 hours the whole week. So they're very good at it.
You don't know from what month to month, like how many hours you're going to be working?
No, I haven't. When I first started, I started around this time last year. It's a busy time, so I started 40 hours. But ever since February of this year, it's been no set schedule. It's all every month. It fluctuates.
What about working conditions? I mean, Kate, maybe you first. Are you treated decently? I mean, like you get breaks once in a while. How long is lunch? That kind of thing.
Breaks, depending on how long your shift is. At my store, if you work anything under an 8-hour shift, you get one 15-minute break.
Mm-hmm.
And if you work over 6 hours, 6 hours to 8 hours, 6 hours to 7:59, you get a 30-minute lunch.
Mm-hmm.
If you break the 8-hour window, you get one more 15-minute break and an hour lunch, depending on what time of the year it is. With our busy season coming up now, even if you're scheduled for an hour, they're telling you you're only allowed to take a 30-minute lunch, and if you take more than a 30-minute lunch, they threaten your job.
So if you I'm assuming there's no Dominic first. I'm assuming there's no process by which you can file a grievance or a complaint, right?
I don't know the answer to that question. You said there's no profit, so I can file a complaint for how they do with the hours. You mean?
Yeah, well, for anything. I mean, let's say you're upset about health conditions or working conditions. I mean, is there a regular process to complain about, or a boss or whatever?
I believe their policy is the open door. And that's when we're supposed to address it on an individual matter.
So what is an open door what does open door policy mean?
Open door policy is basically a time when you and supposedly a witness, but it depends on who your witness is if they allow it to happen. But it's a time when you sit down with the manager and you discuss what's going on, and the manager listens, and it's supposed to be resolved, and from my experience and just talking to my associates and people in our Walmart, the open door policy is just a facade. Like, it's just an illusion. It's there to, put us on ice, but it doesn't produce results. I don't agree with the open door policy. So to answer your question, no.
So with the two of you, is our Walmart, this organization, our Walmart, is a website, by the way?
Our website is www.forrespect.org.
Forrespect.org. Okay, and so what would you want? I mean, first of all, let's say Kate, you go first, and then Dominic. What do you want from Walmart? I'm obviously I understand that what you're getting paid isn't enough, and the working conditions aren't so good. But what do you want them to do? What do you want them to do?
I want them to guarantee some hours. I would like the pay to be a livable wage. I get 16 hours. Well, I'm scheduled 16 hours this week. I'll get 20 hours next week. So 4 more hours is kind of exciting because 16 was a little more than what I normally got. But with it being a busy season, I'm getting a few more hours than normal. But at less than $8 an hour, I'm not able to support my family. So I want them to pay a livable wage. I want them to give the hours to the associates who have been there longer rather than just hiring on new people and giving out hours to the new people before the ones that have been there longer. I would be absolutely thrilled if they would make the insurance a little more affordable. Right now with my insurance, I have to, before they'll cover even a penny, I have to pay almost $3,000 in deductible.
Wait. So $3,000 in deductible on $8 an hour?
Yes.
So Dominic, go ahead. Dominic, you go ahead.
Basically, to add on what Kay was saying, all I want to see is just respect. More respect for the associate and more respect for the customer. Give us the hours so we can get the job done. It should be an in and out process, and the customers being here longer than what they planned every time. So, just more respect and stop retaliating against our Walmart members for speaking out and trying to make change. Look, we're not trying to tear down Walmart. We're trying to make it a better place for the workers and the people that come visit. That's all I want. That's all that's all I can ask for.
Well, let me ask you this, because we have to go to a break, and then we're going to move on to the other stuff. So, Kate, you go first, and then Dominic. Do you want to form a union? I mean, shouldn't you be forming a union? I mean, I can't see how this is me speaking here, but how could you possibly change a gigantic place like this without a nationwide union?
Even without the union, there's strength in numbers, and Walmart is beginning to realize this. We just had yet another trip to Bensenville, and our voices are slowly but surely being heard. And minor changes, I mean, they're not huge, but there are changes that are being made. A couple stores now have got to where the seniority counts, and if you've been there longer, you get hours before the new people get hours. They've started posting schedules back on paper rather than online. So if you do have a discrepancy with your schedule and you need a day off, you can go to another worker that's working that day and that's not working that day and say, hey, can you trade? Do you have another day that you would like to trade? How can we fix this? And it's making it a little easier on associates. But as far as the union goes, in my opinion, it would be easier if we were union. But right now, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Walmart isn't going to allow a union in their store.
Well, no,
So
I think no company that I ever heard of ever allowed a union. A union,
It's always.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like, so Dominic, go ahead.
Yeah, that's true, and it's just like just like with the farmers, man. History repeats itself. It's always something that's going on. Somebody's getting too greedy, not handling, their company right, and the workers are not being treated fairly. And the workers just start banding together. And I believe, probably not this year, probably not next year. I probably won't be around. I still work for Walmart to see it, but I believe we will one day have a union in Walmart, and Walmart will be able to live up to the standards, that this great country puts it at, to be the number one retailer in the world. None of the workers should have to be on food stamps or government aid, if you work for the number one retailer in the world. So
right.
One day I hope to see a union for Walmart.
Especially when you got, 4 or 5 members of the Walton family that are that have, 10, 20, $30 billion each,
Don't even get me started on the Walton.
Yeah, well, all right.
I don't understand.
Well,
I could talk all day.
Yeah, well, yeah. But so one last question, though. Basically, some people at certain stores across the country did a kind of a walkout. Tell me what happened.
Woo! Okay, you want to answer this?
Kate, go ahead.
Well, goodness, what happened with the walkout? Well, there's several associates who have finally discovered that there is strength in numbers, and when you stand up, your voice will be heard, and they don't have to put up with Walmart's bull crap anymore. And they walked out. They went and they told their management that enough is enough, and we're going on a ULP strike, for labor practice.
So did they get fired for walking out?
No, they did not. But actually, Walmart Home Office issued a memo that said that they cannot retaliate against us because of these strikes. They cannot fire us. They cannot do anything.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What'd you say, Dominic?
I said it's not legal to fire somebody for retaliate against unfair labor practices. And it was crazy because it happened in L.A., and I was actually in L.A. we were at a Global Union Alliance conference with workers from all over the world, from South Africa, from Chile, Argentina, and all these other, individuals, they're unionized, and they're coming to America like, man, we thought this is the home of Walmart. We thought you guys would be unionized, and we telling them like, no, we're not unionized. And we made a pact, and it was so beautiful. And in the midst of the meeting, 71 workers from the L.A. area from Walmart protested and walked off and came in the meeting. It was so beautiful. I almost cried, man. It just felt like we were, just to be there and be a part of that, and also be a worker myself. It just gave me the strength to come back, and be able to do my strike that I did last week in Bentonville, so.
All right. Well, listen,
it was a beautiful experience.
We do have to move on, but maybe every few weeks, if new stuff develops, we can talk some more. All right?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. We're going to go to a break now, and when we come back, we'll go straight to your calls. I'm presuming there are people on the line. Let's go to a break.
Mark Thompson on Sirius XM Left. Mark Thompson.
Mitt Romney is doing his little etch-a-sketch these days, it appears, huh?
All of a sudden, he's moderate again.
I mean, they said he was going to etch-a-sketch. I guess nobody figured he would do it this late.
And it's really funny. He's just so blatant. It's such a sudden sharp turn that people can't quite catch up with it.
Make It Plain with Mark Thompson. Weekdays at 6 p.m. East, 3 West. On Sirius XM Left. 127.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-834-4964 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 800-834-4964 to take your call now. Call 800-834-4964. That's 800-834-4964. Again, 800-834-4964.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
If you want to work until you drop, reduce your standard of living in retirement, or lose more of your hard-earned money in the stock market, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to generate a steady, predictable income, I'm talking real wealth and financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. A free report is now available that reveals the money-making secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. This report reveals how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and wealth-building power without risking your hard-earned money in the Wall Street casino. How you can bypass banks and credit cards and become your own source of financing. And how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. And it beats the pants off any IRA or 401k. To learn more about this method and to get your free special report, visit bankonyourself.com right now. That's bankonyourself.com. www.bankonyourself.com.
All Access means everything. That's exactly what you get with the All Access package from SiriusXM. Get every channel available on your radio and access to listen to SiriusXM on your smartphone, computer, or tablet. You also get every game from every major sport plus on-demand access to your favorite shows with SiriusXM On Demand. The All Access package has it all at a great price. Upgrade now. Visit www.SiriusXM.com/all-access or call 1-877-613-3589.
Sirius XM Left.
Nobody thought that you could break through the tobacco industry, but it was done.
Fairness. Equality. Sirius XM Left. 127.
Okay, Todd in Pennsylvania, you are on the radio.
Yes, sir. How are you doing this evening?
Hey.
Well, sir, first let me get out of the way that I am on the opposite end of the spectrum from you, but at least only thing I can offer you is something that you deserve, which is a civil conversation with no insults. So, sir, I understand that you prefer that the government operate outside the law and force people to give. Now, number one, what is you want to take from person A and give to person B? What would be the responsibility of person B then?
I'm not sure I'm really following you. Let me give you an example, and then you can tell me what you really mean. Let's say here's a guy named Bob Walton, or whatever the guy's name is. He has $30 billion, right? And if you were just listening, we had one of his workers on. The average salary after somebody works there a year is $8 an hour. Most people making $8 an hour, if they have a family and they're trying to get by and they have like some medical costs, or a lot of these people that work on at Walmart's are on food stamps because they can't afford to live on that money. Rent goes up, food goes up all the time. They can hardly afford to even buy a car, obviously, or even operate a car. But a guy's got $20 or $30 billion. To me, his responsibility is to raise the pay of all these people. I would double it. If I was in a position, I would triple their pay so they could live really decent lives. They'd be happier people. They'd do better jobs. I would still have billions of dollars. I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, okay, then you double everything and then the prices go up.
Well. If I double the pay of all these people, what is that? Why would prices have to go up?
Well, because then they're going to roll the cost to the consumer.
No, wait. But the cost to the consumer is not because these people's pay is adjusted so they can live in the world like decent human beings. The reason it's so expensive is because the Walton family has $100 billion. If they only had like $100 million each, you would have something like $99 billion that you could put back into Walmart's to pay people, and you wouldn't have to raise the prices. How simple is that?
Well, sir, it's just that, number one, the workers are there voluntarily. They were told that prior to being hired there, that this is what we're going to offer, take it or leave it. And number two, why are people having such large families they cannot support in the first place? That's where I'm coming from, sir.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, for example, I am a divorced single dad, and I would love to have 4 or 5 children, but I simply cannot afford them. And that's where I come from. And it's just you know, again, and I'm sure, and I'll admit, I'm sure you are far more intellectual than I am.
No. Don't give me that stuff. Your opinion is your opinion is the same as mine, value-wise. Go ahead.
And also, sir, it's just also what I'm looking at, what a future administration could abuse the system even more and more. For example, okay, say the Obama administration wants to raise taxes to a certain percentage, and then it builds a more and more dependent class, and then later on.
They as far as I can understand, I don't really like Obama much, but what he says is that he wants to raise taxes on the richest American people. That is the people who have multi-million-dollar incomes and who have $10, $20, $30 million or billions of dollars in assets. That's who he wants to raise taxes on, so that people who are living virtually at poverty level, which is like 30 million Americans, through no real fault of their own because they work hard, it's just the way that business operates, they would get extra money because the government would add that extra tax money.
Well, what about the 200,000? You're making more than 200,000 and file over 250,000. That's far less than $1 million, sir.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to raise. He said the other night at the debates, that he'd do a cutoff at $250,000. If you listen to debates, that's what he said. Anyhow, that's what he says. That if you make less than $250,000, he won't bother you. But if you make above that, he'll start incrementally at a very low rate raising your taxes. To me, that's perfectly all right.
Well, again, sir, I respectfully disagree with that. Because the only problem with that as well, that it's not regionally adjusted. Now, where I live, if you make $200,000, it's great. But in New York City, Dallas, Miami, that's not rich very well. So if anything, at least adjust according to region.
Well, that's a possibility. If you could do that, yeah, that's a possibility. In most places in this country, aside from various sections of certain particular cities, $200,000 is a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. Again, thank you so much for taking my call.
Yeah.
Have a great evening, sir, and I love your show.
Okay, thanks for listening. Okay, let's go to who? Jen from Virginia, you're on.
Hi. A couple of things. Calling. I was listening to the folks from. I used to work at Target.
Oh.
And I did it. I'm a paralegal. I'm very educated. I've got 3 degrees, speak 5 languages. I'm a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
My husband is an over-the-road truck driver. So I'm was trying to supplement my income. And at one point, this was in Florida, and I wound up losing my day job. I wound up I got laid off.
Mm-hmm.
So I completely relate to the livable wage. With respect to, you just can't make it. I mean, I worry about people that is their sole method of taking care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So having said that, a couple of things that you all need to know. And as I'm sitting here listening to the conversation, I had a brilliant idea, again, a paralegal. So here's the way that it works.
Mm-hmm.
They discourage you openly from forming unions. They threaten you. If they make you watch a video and sign a statement saying that you will not unionize.
Right.
2, they take an average of your hours over a year's period of time. You're hoping to get the maximum number of hours so you meet the requirement to get health care, but you'll never get it.
No, they don't like that. They won't do that for you. No.
No, it's by keeping you poor and suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
So check this out. So I did some research and I discovered that on average, every Walmart winds up incurring $450,000 per store in food stamp costs to the state. Okay, check that out.
That's a lot.
So that is a lot. So that's an undue burden on the taxpayers. Listening to what your previous caller said, I don't know why I should have to pay. That's a lot of money. Yada yada. I don't want to have kids. Forget about having kids. You're a single person. You're trying to take care of yourself. You're going to school. You're working a job. They're not paying you enough. Okay, to begin with. So what I'm thinking here is the states need to come together under a class action lawsuit or possibly a federal labor lawsuit and sue corporations that impose a financial hardship on those states, much like the tobacco companies did.
Ah, that's a very good idea. I like that idea. In other words, it's a class action suit by the states against these companies because they are a drain on the state budgets.
That's exactly right. And I actually called this because I don't know if you heard about the Napiersville, Illinois protest where the workers just refused to let the trucks in. This happened about 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying to pepper spray elderly people who just sat down and refused to move.
Right.
So I called the local, and I have an affectionate name for Target. I call it Targetto, because Targetto, expensive crap for a whole lot of money, and like their furniture is nothing more than wood veneer on cardboard,
Mm-hmm.
made in China.
Right.
Okay, so my point being is I called the Walmart here in Stafford. I spoke to the manager, and she completely agreed with me. I said, you know that they're trying to suppress their workers. They don't give a shit, to be honest, about anything that these workers suffer through. The contamination in their warehouses with chemicals.
Oh yeah, and this is that's another issue. We're going to have a guy on next week who's actually done a hell of a lot of research on this. And one issue you just bring up is that in these giant warehouses, which are usually subcontracted, one of the ways that Walmart weasels out of doing the right thing is they subcontract a lot of this stuff, like at warehouses. And then they're not the ones who did the bad thing, the subcontractors. But what they did was they work in these trucks that come from China that are filled with this toxic dust, and they don't provide gas masks or oxygen masks. Yeah.
And they force these workers to work in unsafe conditions.
That's
where
right.
They're constantly getting hurt. And if you say anything, you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? And that type of retaliatory labor market, my husband and I go round and around. And I'm a former Republican, and I'm pro-union because I've been there. I've had my ass worked off like 12, 14 hours, and they go, but you have to take a 15-minute break if you get it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. Here's the thing. Trickle down isn't working. The rich need to be taxed. I'm tired of supporting like Mitt Romney. I'm in a 30% tax bracket, and he's paying with an amended tax return. My money's on that he's going to file his 2011 taxes amended. It'll be like a 9% tax return.
Well, you know, I'm with you on all of this stuff. We only have like a minute left, but here's the point. I mean, if you vote for Obama and Obama, let's say Obama gets elected, right, on November, whatever it is, 5th, whatever the day is, there's 6th. Okay, if Obama gets elected and then he begins his new term in January, I wouldn't look so quick to see any raising of taxes of rich people.
What we are going to see is we're continuing to see the middle class under attack, and you've seen the numbers where more and more of the middle class is actually on its knees and getting food stamps.
I don't see the election of Barack Obama changing that.
I do, I've been up since 5:00 this morning working on the campaign.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait,
down here in Stafford.
Well, if you get a chance, listen next week, because we're going to have this guy on who's got even more details about Walmart. Then we're going to have Jill Stein on and a couple of other people. Obviously, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to address all these election issues as much as we.
We really need to hold Walmart and Target accountable on
Okay.
on a local and a state level.
All right, that's a good idea. I like your idea. Thanks for calling.
All right, have a good one.
Okay, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week. We've got a guy who's done a lot of research on Walmart, how they treat their workers, the amount of money they make, their unfair labor practices. Jill Stein will be on next week, and several other very interesting guests. And as we move on towards the election, as if you get a chance to actually choose who owns and runs this country into the ground. Take it away.
Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's my story. Oh, that's my story. Well, I ain't got a witness, and I can't prove it, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right.
Ed Schultz on Sirius XM Left.
For Mitt Romney to pin his future with the automobile industry on an op-ed that said let Detroit go bankrupt is saying that don't worry, there's going to be some vulture capitalists out there that are going to come back and build cars. And you know what? We're going to build cars without unions. And we're going to build cars with a limited amount of workers.
The Ed Schultz Show. Weekdays at noon East, 9 West on Sirius XM Left. 127.
If you're looking for an affordable, easy answer to payroll for your small business, log on to SurePayroll.com today. Whether paying yourself or 10 employees, SurePayroll pays your employees, calculates, files, and pays your payroll taxes automatically. With SurePayroll.com, you can run payroll anytime, even from your smartphone. And if you need help, U.S.-based customer service is there. Make payroll easy and affordable. Call 877-954-7873 or visit SurePayroll.com today. That's SURE payroll.com. If your knowledge of cars stops at how to turn on the wipers, rev it up with Autoblog.com. Autoblog can turn anyone into a car guy with 20-plus articles a day, in-depth expert reviews, and the web's best funny, crazy, and cool car videos. Bigger than MotorTrend.com, bigger than CarAndDriver.com. Autoblog.com is your go-to place for anything car-related. Log on now to Autoblog.com. That's AUTOBLOG.com. Autoblog.com. We obsessively cover cars. Wow, sounds like somebody's stuck. In Disney's animated film Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph feels the same way. He's been playing the same game for over 30 years. But now, Ralph's jumping from game to game, and you can too. With GameFly, the #1 video game rental service, you can play all the latest video games, and you can have them shipped right to your door. Play games before you buy them. GameFly has over 8,000 console titles to choose from, including the hottest new releases, like Dishonored, Resident Evil 6, and NBA 2K13. Start now and get a month free trial. It's easy. Sign up, select your games, and GameFly will ship them directly to your door. You can rent the games as long as you want. There are no late fees, and you can cancel at any time. Send the game back when you're done, and GameFly will send you the next available game on your list.
Sweet!
Join now, and you can also download hundreds of PC games at no extra cost.
Bonus level!
Gamefly.com. And don't forget to see Disney's Wreck-It Ralph, rated PG, in theaters in 3D November 2nd.
Sirius XM. The download. The latest buzzworthy moments from Sirius XM.
SiriusXM launched SiriusXM FC, a new 24/7 channel dedicated entirely to soccer, featuring live play-by-play and soccer talk all year long. Shaquille O'Neal hung out with Covino and Rich and sung his favorite hits from the 80s. And the Fonz himself answered fan questions and hung out with Bruno Mars in SiriusXM's Town Hall with Henry Winkler.
Sirius XM. The download. Sirius XM Left.
There's enormous human damage being done, all unnecessary.
The political revolution is being broadcast. Sirius XM Left. 127.
AP Radio News. I'm Carlotta Bradley. With President Barack Obama and Mitt Romney focusing on debate prep, their running mates are campaigning. Romney running mate Paul Ryan visited Pennsylvania, saying Romney has the experience the country needs.
Being successful in business, that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. We want more people to be successful. We have a jobs crisis. We ought to have a job creator in the White House.
Vice President Joe Biden was in Florida saying Romney moved jobs out of the country as a businessman and Massachusetts governor.
He actually outsourced the Massachusetts State Call Service, where you would pick up the phone and dial a number, call and say, am I entitled to job benefits because I'm unemployed? And you got someone in Asia answering the phone.
An alleged ringleader of the U.S. consulate attack in Libya is speaking to reporters.
Ahmed Abu Khattala is identified by witnesses and authorities as one of the ringleaders of the deadly attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi. But he's not hiding. In fact, he's given an interview to the New York Times in Libya. He says he's not a member of al-Qaeda, but the newspaper says he is linked to the militia group Ansar al-Sharia. Abu Khattala says he was at the consulate only to help rescue Libyan guards inside. He insists he was not involved in the attack that left 4 Americans dead, but he accuses American leaders of trying to use the tragedy to get votes. Rita Foley, Washington.
The death toll from the country's meningitis out to 23. Bryant Thomas has more.
The number of those sickened by the compounded drugs keeps rising. Now the CDC says more than 280 people have been sickened by the tainted medication used in 16 states, from Idaho to New Hampshire and as far south as Texas.
The medication was made by a specialty pharmacy in Massachusetts and has been recalled. This is AP Radio News. A union is contesting government attempts to remove baggage screeners at Newark Airport.
The Transportation Security Administration wants to fire 25 Newark Airport baggage screeners for improperly screening bags. The employees' union says it will contest the action. The TSA says the screeners were caught on video not opening every bag that went through a special luggage room. Peter Winch of the American Federation of Government Employees says what the video doesn't show is that some of those were already cleared bags that weren't supposed to be opened.
They're definitely protecting the public, and they're being caught up in a very unfortunate catch-22 situation.
The cameras were installed in the first place because of theft problems at Newark, but no theft was caught on camera. Warren Levinson, New York.
Apple farmers in producing states like New York and Michigan say production is down as much as 90%. First, warm spring weather tricked trees into early budding, then frost damaged the delicate blossoms. I'm Carlotta Bradley, AP Radio News.
Dave Marsh on Sirius XM Left.
Live from the land of hope and dreams.
We're talking about the election. Why are we talking about the election? Because until we stop talking about the election, we can't make any progress. But we can't stop talking about the election until we all decide to wake up and realize that the future is up to us. That what we do is more important than what the bigwigs do, just because there's more of us.
Dave Marsh. Sundays at 1 p.m. East, 10 a.m. West. On Sirius XM Left. 127.
Liars, liars, liars. You've been lied to a lot. You can't make money in today's market, or the market's too risky. Not true. At least not the way I do it. $100 at a time. I'm Tucker Stipe, inventor of the low-risk trading system, and I'm killing the market right now. I often make $1,000 a day, never risking more than $100. I'm so confident you can make money my way that I'll give you my complete $1,000 system for over 90% off.
I was afraid of the markets. Not anymore.
I'm not rich, but I risked $100, and it worked.
To me, this is the most sensible, safe way to make money.
This is a proven low-risk way to make money, and I want you to try it risk-free. Call to hear my unique guarantee.
Call 1-800-735-3817 in the next 90 minutes and learn how to get this system risk-free. Plus, the first 500 people to call will receive Making Money in a Bad Economy. That's 1-800-735-3817. Don't miss this opportunity. Call 1-800-735-3817. Please read the full risk disclosure on the free membership site.
Hey, Jim, you look like you saw a ghost.
Oh, no, Joe. I saw my banker who said no to a business loan.
You should call Anchor Funding Services.
But I have no capital in my business. I don't have 3 years of profits.
Call Anchor. I did, and my cash flow is great. Anchor Funding Services helps businesses by funding their accounts receivable. Anchor Funding Services makes quick decisions for my business when I need them most. Give them a call at 877-70-ANCHOR. That's 877-70-ANCHOR. Or go to 70anchor.com.
Oh dear, oh dear, I shall be late.
Through the political rabbit's hole we go. Down past environmental crisis. Down through jobless recovery. Down, plummeting by resurgent conservatism. Down, down, down. Will this fall never end? With a sudden thud. You hit the ground.
Oh, my.
A creepy shadow world surrounds you, filled with mad tea partiers.
Completely mad?
Fact-resistant bigots.
That seems awfully convenient excuse.
And twisted Bible-spouting homophobic freaks.
And we are gonna say no more!
Darkness seeps over this warped wonderland as conservative griffins sell their tainted potions, making the fat cats even bigger, and the working people smaller. Is there an end to this madness? Yes! Wake up and turn on reality. The Michelangelo Signorelli Show.
The last best hope of Earth.
These people are not with us.
I'm a bigot.
How about your lifestyle?
Barbarians.
The danger to me as a gay person.
Homosexuals are the problem.
Amen.
This is insanity.
Revealing the madness.
It's time to have some provocative language.
They
Godless sodomites.
should be afraid
Chaos.
of the Tea Party. Got your attention now?
Corporations are people, my friend.
This is insanity.
Standing up and fighting back.
Let's go back to the phones.
You are a personal hero of mine. You converted me.
I have not stopped laughing.
You in top form. You guys got one hell of a show.
Come on, let's talk about the issues of the day.
This is the Michelangelo Signorelli Show. Everything you need to know right now.
Hello and welcome to the Friday edition of our program. Mitt Romney and President Obama on the campaign trail for the past couple of days, really now playing off of a lot of what happened at that debate the other night, and then kind of jabbing at each other with jokes. Last night, at the Al Smith dinner in New York. And it's kind of weird to see, this anger and, outright